In Konoha the opening game plays as Jikuni Yuanichi Chapter 126-150. Chapter 126. It is worthy of the name of a monster. It has the style of the second god of the ninja world, Senju Hashirama. This guy is improving so fast. After whispering a few words, Obito felt inexplicably heavy in his heart and quickly took out 3 shurikens with both hands. At this point, there is no other way. Itachi. Let's go together. Swish, swish, swish. The sharp shuriken. Drawing a smooth arc in the air. Shooting towards Hatake Kusuo at a strange angle. Infused with chakra, the power and speed increased by more than 1 time, far exceeding the kunai fired by ordinary ninjas. The mighty gale can penetrate the human body. Hatake Kusuo looked indifferent. 2 random sword energies were slashed out, forming a cross to block the aggressive shuriken. At the same time, at this time, Kusuo Hatake noticed that Itachi Uchiha had already moved and disappeared from the spot. The senses of the transparent world were transmitted to his brain, and there was a wisp of breathing rhythm. Above. Kusuo Hatake's eyes moved, and he pushed his feet up and exerted force instantly. The whole person burst into the sky like a cannonball, and the blade in his hand cut out a gorgeous sword flower. Itachi's face changed slightly when he was flying in the sky. I didn't expect that such a hidden action was still discovered. This insight. It was simply terrifying and amazing. At the moment when Kusuo Hatake's sword was about to pierce Itachi's body, an accident occurred. The shuriken that was supposed to be blocked by his cross-shaped sword energy suddenly disappeared halfway. 1 second later. Again at a faster speed. Continue to fly towards Kusuo Hatake. I won. Looking at this scene. Obito's face hidden under the mask showed joy and ferocity. After I gather both eyes, my move is called Kamui Shuriken. Be prepared, Kusuo Hatake. I want you dead. He seemed to see the Kamui Shuriken piercing Kusuo Hatake's chest. A large amount of blood spurted out of Kusuo Hatake's body. What a wonderful scene it would be. What a pity. The corners of Kusuo Hatake's mouth, floating in the air, slightly raised, just fell into Obito's eyes. This. Obito's eyes were filled with doubt. That smile was clearly mocking. Impossible. The Kamui Shuriken clearly dodged his sword energy. Could it be that Kusuo Hatake had a backhand? Everything. It happened in a flash. Moon breathing 5th form. Moon soul disaster vortex. Defense skills. Kusuo Hatake was frozen in midair, without even drawing his sword. His constantly spinning body generated a huge vortex of blade wind around him. The unexpected Kamui Shuriken sword that Obito had high hopes for was deflected. Swish, swish, swish. Countless crescent blades stayed on the orbit of Kusuo Hatake's rotating body, even cutting Itachi above and causing him to bleed profusely. Itachi's body glowed with a fiery red light, and the skeleton Susanoo covered him in time to avoid greater damage. A flash of a figure. Itachi and Obito stood in front of everything again. Both of them looked extremely cautious and puzzled. New attribute. Another new attribute. Or an attribute they had never seen before. Could it be a bloodline limit? Obito asked Itachi next to him. In Itachi's deep tear trough, the scarlet Sharingan turned seductively. He shook his head. You and I should be able to see the changes in that kid's body, the blood flow, the oxygen saturation, and the vigor of the chi, which is comparable to the tailed beast. You know very well whether it is a bloodline limit. Itachi's words. Obito's face became even more gloomy. Since the first time he met this kid, Kusuo Hatake. His Sharingan saw the other party's strong physical fitness. That kind of vigorous vitality. Ordinary people can't compare at all. Even the 4th Raikage he had seen before was far inferior. I'm afraid that only when the 4th Raikage opened the lightning chakra mode, he would be qualified for comparison. That's right. It's just the qualification for comparison. Completely different from the first generation of Sage Body mode, but the effect is even more powerful. Obito quickly calculated in his mind. Everything he has now is all thanks to Madara's teachings and the increasingly mature Hashirama cell technology. But in his impression, even the sage body does not have such amazing physical vitality. The feeling that Kusuo Hatake gave them. It's like Might Day who opened the 8 gates. Crushing. Invulnerable. Extreme speed, unparalleled insight, and attack power that cuts through everything. You know. Kusuo Hatake is only 14 years old this year. In just 1 year. He has made such progress. The speed of his growth may be even more monstrous than that monster Hashirama Senju. It is really shocking. Your swordsmanship has improved to a higher level. We are really ashamed of ourselves. After thinking a lot, Obito said loudly. After falling from the air, Kusuo Hatake still pointed his sword at them, with no fluctuation on his face. It's a pity that your strength is only the power of one person. The times have changed now. Unlike the Warring States period, there is no need for people like the first Hokage to appear between countries and villages, nor is there a need for someone to distribute the tailed beasts to balance the strength. Your birth, your existence, is ultimately a mistake. We will see each other next time. The voice came to the end. Obito and Itachi have disappeared in the space vortex and entered the Kamui space. Hatake Kusuo did not stop him, nor could he stop him. Obito, with the double Kamui, has the fastest speed in the ninja world. He wanted to run, and no one could stop him. However, the words left by Obito before leaving made Hatake Kusuo smile playfully. You already have the tailed beasts and powerful shadows, so you think you can divide your troops to fight and take the opportunity to force them. This is your confidence. Unfortunately, you seem to have forgotten that I have been planning for so long for this day to come. Until you reach the Super Shadow or the 6 Paths, anyone under my sword is nothing but an ant. Looking at the sword in his hand quietly, Kusuo Hatake's heart never wavered. Swoosh. Several figures jumped beside him. Asuma and Kurenai were busy with the area nearby. Kunai, is Itachi here again? Asuma stepped forward and saw a little blood on Kusuo Hatake's feet. Kurenai immediately dipped a little with her finger, took out the scroll and sealed it. She was going to take it back to the Anbu for analysis. No need. Kunai Hatake stopped Kurenai from doing the next thing. This is Itachi's blood, and if nothing unexpected happens, they won't come back in a short time. Kunai Hatake looked at the direction where Obito and Itachi had just left. When they show up next time, it will be a full-scale war. Hiss. All-out war. Hong and Asuma were shocked and confused. What is going on here? Kusuo, have you discovered something? Asuma's expression was extremely serious. Konoha had just rested for a year and could not face war again. But Kusuo Hatake's words made his heart jump again, and he had to believe it. At least. His student had never said anything without a purpose. Kusuo Hatake looked deeply at Hong and Asuma. The village leaders must have known these things, and Tsunade and Jiraiya had sent a large number of ninjas to the outside of the village. Although Asuma and Hong were senior ninjas, they still had low status. It was expected that they didn't know these. Kusuo Hatake wiped the blood off the sword and put the sword back into the sheath. He glanced at them lightly. The Hidden Cloud Village, the Hidden Earth Village, and the Hidden Water Village have joined forces to form a ninja coalition to attack Konoha. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be a few months later. After saying these words, he jumped up and left. Asuma and Hong, who were left standing, looked at each other in shock. The 3 countries have joined forces, planning to attack Konoha. This news. It was like a bolt from the blue. It hit them hard. Chapter 127 inches. Let's go. Let's go back to find Lord Hokage. Knowing from Hatake Kusuo, Asuma and Hong, who felt that the situation was serious, looked unhappy and did not dare to delay at all. Turning around. Immediately returned to the village. Prepare to find Tsunade to report the situation together. Hokage building. In the office. What? The people who attacked Kakashi were Itachi and the mysterious man, and the mysterious man was suspected to be Uchiha Obito. Listening to the report, Tsunade's face changed. She stood up suddenly, her mouth slightly opened, and her face was indescribably solemn. Immediately, Asuma and Hong were shocked by her momentum. The former stepped forward slightly and said in a deep voice, "Yes, according to our investigation of the scene and the information in Hitaki Kusuo's words, the accuracy rate is more than 90%. Has Kusuo fought with them?" Tsunade was shocked again. Then, the two of them roughly described the situation they had encountered before. Because the battle was over when Asuma and the others arrived, no useful information could be inferred. But, based on the bloodstains on the ground, Hitaki Kusuo should have undoubtedly gained the upper hand. Okay, you must keep this matter strictly confidential and not reveal any of it. As for Kakashi, you forget it, I will go and talk to him in person and explain it clearly. Tsunade thought for a while, waved her hand, and quickly analyzed the pros and cons. In fact, Obito did not die many years ago. And it is very likely that he was the mysterious mastermind who planned the nine-tailed knight 13 years ago. He now has a full pair of Mangekyo Sharingan, and his combat power is no weaker than the S-level rebel Uchiha Itachi. Even to a certain extent. It is more difficult to deal with and more difficult to deal with. Tsunade and others have to pay attention to this. The most critical. It is still Uchiha Obito's tricky ability. They can't let the villagers and the ninjas below know that Obito can travel through space at will and hide his body in and out of Konoha. Once the news leaks, it will inevitably cause large-scale panic. Yes, Hokage-sama. Asuma and Hong responded in a deep voice, and immediately went back to prepare for work. After the two left, Tsunade rubbed her eyebrows hard, one hand on the table. The weight in front of him pressed on the desk, with an amazing view. Kusuo, that kid really realized something. It seems that he can't be treated as an ordinary child. It's so fast, more than a year has passed in the blink of an eye. With a sigh, Tsunade felt exhausted. Ever since she lost the bet to Hitaki Kusuo and took over the war-torn Konoha as Hokage. Every day is full of endless official duties. Of course, these are nothing in her heart. One after another. The big things are pressing on Tsunade's shoulders, which is the real reason for people to breathe. Even as one of the three ninjas in the ninja world, Tsunade still feels at a loss. In this regard, the seriousness of the situation. Tsunade is under a lot of pressure. During this period, it seems that I have always been too obsessed with carrying the burden on myself. Kusuo, that kid has talents that we can't imagine. Diaresis. Tsunade is hesitating. Should I share the responsibility of a village with Kusuo Hitaki? As a top-level warrior, Konoha is the undisputed #1 fighter. Kusuo Hitaki should stand up at this time. But as a Hokage, she also knows Kusuo Hitaki's character, and she can't bring herself to put such heavy pressure on a young man. The conspiracy of the three major countries. The joint attack of the three hidden villages. Since the founding of Konoha, it has never encountered such a crisis. If there is a slight mistake in the handling, it will be destroyed. Come here. Finally. Tsunade seemed to have made up her mind and shouted to the outside of the door. Tsunade-sama. Shizune came in with Tun-Tun and said respectfully. Go to the Hitaki clan and find Kusuo. Ha ha ha. You really overestimate your abilities. You were clearly defeated by others, but you were caught. In the Akatsuki base, Hidan carried the Grim Reaper's sickle. Seeing Obito and Itachi, who had become hollows, with wounds and blood on their bodies, he felt a bit gloating. Kakuzu stood beside Hidan, glanced coldly, and said nothing. Ah, we are all teammates, how can you add insult to injury at this time? Z's body also half floated out from the ground, grinning. It seemed that he was saying nice things, but in fact, he was smiling with a needle. Shut your mouth, or I don't mind being the first to kill you. Hidan didn't give Zetsu on the ground any face, and threatened with a grin. Oh my. That's terrible. Z's mouth made a weird sound, and in a blink of an eye, he drilled from the ground to the other end. The huge base space. Now there are only a few lonely figures left. Okay, stop arguing. Pain walked out of the shadows, and there was another person beside him. There was a lavender paper flower on his light blue-purple hair. There was a lip stud on the bottom of his lips, and the purple eyeshadow was mysterious and charming. Conan. Conan will cooperate with Itachi in the future. Fei, you will be in the same group with Zetsu for the time being. Pain Tendo, who was made by Yahiko, had a cold expression and spoke out the new arrangement of the Akatsuki organization without any emotion. Itachi remained silent and did not object. Obito, on the other hand, had a sneer on his lips, and looked at Pain with disdain. Nagato's thoughts. He knew it all. It was nothing more than fearing that he had infiltrated the members of the group. What was funny was that this stupid chess piece did not understand his mission now. He thought that he could deal with himself by instigating people like Fiden. This inferior behavior was ridiculous to Obito. In that case, Kamiyu. Obito let out a low shout, and a tearing space distortion suddenly appeared at Hidan's arm. The next second, a terrible scream resounded throughout the space. It hurts. My arm. Hidan's entire arm was absorbed by Obito's Kamui space, so fast that he had no time to react. Looking at Hidan lying on the ground in pain, spinning in place, Obito stared at him with cold eyes and turned away. Only Konan, who was cold-faced and shocked, was left. He has two eyes. Konan whispered quietly in Pain's ear. Yeah. Pain's face was not good either. Nagato, who was controlling behind him, was even more angry. He was tricked by Obito. The relationship of the entire Akatsuki organization was so rigid. Except Itachi, who could detect the slightest abnormality, no one knew the true identity and purpose of Fei. From the beginning to the end, only Nagato and Konan beside him were on guard against him. Even all the money earned by the Akatsuki organization was used by Konan to buy detonating tags to target Obito. With Obito who had gathered the two Kamui, whether the original plan could succeed was a big question mark. You go to see Hidan and stop his wound first. Pain Tendo did not stay for too long. After a brief instruction, he left directly. Konan went to check on Hidan's injury. The whole right arm was cut off. Like a smooth mirror, the bone stumps were clearly visible. Enough to foresee how mysterious Obito's Kamui was. Konan's expression became more solemn. Wrapped Hidan's arm with medical gauze from the paper escape, temporarily stopped his bleeding. But the subsequent recovery is another problem. Although Feijuan has an immortal body, he can sew his body at will and no one can kill him. Even if he is beheaded by a knife, he can remain unscathed. But all this is based on the foundation of healthy limbs. Without his own limbs, Feijuan cannot sew his body like normal. The protection or curse given to him by the god of death is only for Feijuan's personal body. Obito took his arm, which is equivalent to a demonstration to Nagato behind Pain. Because if Feijuan wants to take back his hand, he must surrender to Yu Jiao Wang Chia Obito. This move cuts off the firewood from the bottom of the pot. It really made Konan and Nagato unexpected. Shaking his head, Konan turned his cold eyes to Itachi. You went to Konoha and met him. She was referring to Hitaki Kusuo. Itachi also knew who Konan was talking about. He said calmly. He found our hiding place and we fought. We were defeated and forced to retreat. The almost plain description made Konan's pupils shrink. And Kakuzu, who was standing behind him, also had a change of expression. We were defeated and forced to retreat. Simply a sentence. It means that Hitaki Kusuo is even stronger. To a degree that they can't imagine. After all, just now, Obito personally showed them the power of his eye technique double Kamui. Even so, Obito and Itachi, who had gathered the double Kamui, joined forces, but only got a comment that they were defeated and forced to retreat. It can be seen. Hitaki Kusuo is terrible. I know, you go back and heal your wounds first. Konan sighed and said to Itachi. After that, the dim light in the cave of Akatsuki organization went out. Falling into darkness. Chapter 128. Since Kakashi was attacked last time, the atmosphere of the whole village seemed to have completely changed. Although Tsunade had strictly ordered everyone not to reveal any rumors. But there were still rumors circulating among the villagers. So much so that when Hitaki Kusuo went to buy vegetables this time, an aunt asked him worriedly. Lord Kusuo, will the village face war again soon? My little grandson is still in the 3rd grade of the ninja school. Will he be pulled to the battlefield to kill the enemy in advance? He is only 9.5 years old, and I still. Narrative words. It was like the old man's lingering obsession. She was very worried about the outbreak of war. Because once the war came, the whole village would immediately start the wartime state, and all ninjas had to go to the battlefield, even if it was just a child who had not graduated from the ninja school. It was not just the vegetable seller who was so worried. All the old people who had experienced the 3 wars in these years understood the horror of the wartime state. Efficiently select the most elite talents. It depends on the strong who survive the battles on the battlefield. Hitaki Kusuo was silent for a while and took the vegetables from the ant. Don't worry, even if the war starts, no ungraduated children will go to the battlefield. His words comforted the ant, and she immediately bowed to thank him and insisted on sending Hitaki Kusuo a few more bundles of vegetables. Mr. Hitaki Kusuo's words are like golden words engraved on iron plates and stamped with steel. The villagers believed it deeply. Swoosh! 2 Anbu jumped in the sky, wearing animal masks. After seeing Hitaki Kusuo, they knelt on one knee and said, "Guard. Hokage invites you." After that, they lowered their heads and waited for Hitaki Kusuo to respond. The latter's eyes were stern, and he understood. Sure enough. The war has begun. Then he whispered, "I know, you go back and report first, I'll be there soon." Yes, sir. The 2 Anbu disappeared again, coming and going without a trace. When Hitaki Kusuo was leaving, many vendors behind him sincerely blessed him. They shouted with all their strength, "Sir Kusuo, you must come back safely. We all believe in you forever." Hitaki Kusuo's figure went farther and farther away, and his voice gradually decreased until it disappeared. It was the familiar Hokage building again. But now it was busy and efficient. It was completely different from the well-organized but leisurely atmosphere before. Go upstairs. Push open the door. Sir Tsunade. Hitaki Kusuo simply greeted him and stood silently looking at Tsunade's back. Tsunade's face was happy when she heard the voice of the visitor, and she turned her head immediately. Kusuo, this time the village found you out of helplessness. The coalition forces of the 3 major countries have already assembled and have rushed to the battlefields of the Land of Fire and the Land of Demons. They are numerous and well prepared, and we have been defeated step by step. Although I feel very ashamed, those people's target is you, and they are targeting you. As a villager, we should protect you, but we. Bang! Tsunade angrily punched the table, and the depression in her heart could not be dispersed for a long time. We are not strong enough, and we can only rely on your strength in the end. After listening to Tsunade's words quietly, Hitaki Kusuo did not have too many emotional ups and downs. He killed the daimyo of the Land of Wind, and grew up again, so fast. No matter the daimyo or other cages in the 3 major countries, they would never let him go. He had been prepared for this. Konoha wanted to protect Kusuo Hitaki, but it was just the implementation of the will of fire. And he was not afraid of any enemy that came in force. Even if the other side was the coalition of the 3 countries, with a large number of people. When the strength reached a certain level, and the number of people, for him, it was the most useless thing. I appreciate the kindness of the village. Kusuo Hitaki spoke calmly at this time, looking at Tsunade calmly. Tsunade-sama, do you remember what I have always said to you? There is nothing to thank you for. We just take what we need. There is no need to have any psychological burden. With his words, Tsunade was obviously much more relaxed, and the whole person was not so entangled. But still hesitant to speak. The village already owes you too much. Tsunade sighed. Kusuo Hitaki shrugged, indicating that it didn't matter. Konoha is like a neighborhood in his previous life to him. The Hokage is just a property manager. The living environment of the neighborhood was destroyed and occupied. It's nothing for him, the owner, to take action for his own place. It's just that. Hitaki Kusuo asked again. Where is Lord Jiraiya? I haven't seen him for a long time. This time passed quickly. In the first year after the Konoha collapse plan, he took action to destroy Sand Village. Then he immediately rushed to the land of demons and helped Shion to recover the demons. Another year passed. Kakashi was attacked and stabbed, and his Sharingan was taken away by Obito until now. Another year has passed. Year after year. He is already 15 years old. But he never saw Jiraiya. It would be fine if he was training with Naruto in the past 2 years. What about now? Tsunade was silent for a while, and said bitterly. The village is short of manpower, and the Akatsuki organization is also present in this war, so he went to the battlefield of Rain Village to gather intelligence. Rain Village. To gather information. Hearing this, Kusuo Hatake frowned immediately. He thought of some things that happened in the original work. If Kusuo Hatake is right, Jiraiya will eventually fall into the hands of Pain Six Paths. The lustful sage will die there. What's wrong? Seeing Kusuo Hatake's expression, Tsunade asked in confusion, is there any problem? How many times has Jiraiya gone to gather intelligence? Tsunade was a little confused. It's the first time, and he hasn't come back yet. Kusuo Hatake had a solemn look on his face. Tsunade-sama, if Jiraiya-sensei returns safely this time, remember not to let him go to that place again, even if it's another battlefield. If the village doesn't want to lose him. After that, Hatake Kusuo left with his sword. The words he left before leaving made Tsunade doubtful. If don't want to lose him. Lose Jiraiya. She hurried to the window and looked at the back of Hatake Kusuo leaving downstairs. What does this kid know? Demon Country. This is located at the junction of Wind Country and Earth Country. One of the Ninja Coalition forces is responsible for this place. They want to take back the territory of Wind Country and make Fire Country completely isolated and helpless. As for whether they feel guilty for watching the chaos of Demon Country, so they want to destroy it. No one knows. Captain. A group of teams, hiding under the trenches, attacked from both sides. They were wearing Konoha forehead protectors, and were looking at the leader with bloodshot eyes. Their captain had just had his internal organs shattered by the Earth Country's combined attack ninjutsu, the Earthquake Core, and was dying. Don't panic. The captain, spitting blood, used his last breath to remind the team member closest to him. Everyone, defend this line of defense. Behind us are the retreating people of the Demon Country. So we must not retreat even a step. Captain. Seeing the captain like this, still concerned about the situation on the battlefield, the team members burst into tears and were very excited. We found them. Hiding here, ha 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 ha, let's go and kill them in one fell swoop. At this time, the enemy's cruel laughter and movement came from above the trenches, and countless earth and stone pillars were launched instantly, with a powerful and mighty voice, to smash them into meat paste. Oops. Members of the team. At this time, they found that they had no time to react to the enemy's ninjutsu. Buzz. A sword trembled lightly, falling from the sky. A streak of light passed by, and the dozens of earth and stone pillars more than 1 meter thick were chopped into powder and sprinkled on the heads of the defeated ninjas of Konoha. This sword. It's Lord Kusuo. Great. Lord Kusuo is here. The members of the team wiped the earth and stone powder on their faces and looked for the figure of Hatake Kusuo with joy. Whoosh. A residual image flashed by. Hatake Kusuo had come to their captain. Under the transparent world. The captain's internal injuries were clearly visible in his eyes. Covering the left lung and diaphragm of the captain of the Konoha team with his hand, he said in a deep voice. Remember to close your mouth, breathe through your nose, and transfer chakra and airflow. Flow in the direction covered by my hand. The captain was already out of breath, but he did what Kusuo Hatake said. Time passed by. The captain's pale face turned red. During this time, an opponent's ninja wanted to rush up at this opportunity, but Kusuo Hatake picked up a stone and pierced his throat. The opponent opened his mouth and couldn't speak for a long time, with blood gurgling in his throat. Great. The captain's breath has become stronger. Quick. Where's the medical ninja? Come here. According to Tsunade's suggestion, almost every team is now equipped with a medical team, But I didn't expect it. In front of the captain who everyone thought was going to die, Lord Kusuo actually saved him from the hands of the god of death. For a moment, all the team members looked at Hitaki Kusuo. Respect him like a god. Chapter 129. The medical ninja began to help stop the wound. The green light of the palm fairy technique in his hand continued to supply chakra to the captain of this team. For a long time, looking at this scene, the medical ninja looked dazed and a little dumbfounded. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. The internal bleeding has stopped. Immediately. It was as if he had seen something that was the most difficult to understand in the world. All these things happened, which was completely beyond the cognition of this medical ninja. Yes. Originally, he had the attitude of giving it a try. After all, with broken internal organs and broken meridians, how could it be so easy to stop the internal bleeding? You know. The biggest harm of this kind of injury is that a large amount of blood flows back into the body, forcing other organs to increase internal pressure. Continue without treatment. But now, the medical ninja was shocked. As expected of Lord Kusuo, I didn't expect that he also had unique skills in healing ninjutsu. On the other side, Hitaki Kusuo didn't care about this side anymore. It was not the first time he used breathing to treat wounds. This is just an ordinary ninja. They have never learned breathing techniques. If it were Hinata, Hanabi, Shion, etc., they would not need their own instructions. As long as they were not seriously injured, they could basically stop the wound. And myself. Sorry. With a physique comparable to that of an immortal, the wounds can heal automatically. It's just that. Until now, no one has been able to hurt Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo looked calm, pulled out the sword that had flown over before, and jumped up. The team members behind him were excited and wanted to catch up and charge again. Ha! A big slap fell. It slapped the young man who ran to the front. When he looked back, he found that the person who slapped him was the captain who was seriously injured. Captain. The man's face was full of doubts. Although the captain had just recovered from dying, he had just used a strong palm to waste his strength, and now he couldn't stop coughing. Cough cough cough. Since Lord Kusuo has already taken action, why are you guys so weak? Wouldn't that just cause trouble? Stay still and watch. Not everyone is lucky enough to see Lord Kusuo draw his sword. Seeing the captain's praise, everyone's blood boiled and they were so excited. Lord Kusuo's style and achievements. I have only heard of them in rumors. Now, did they have the honor to see Lord Kusuo take action? All of a sudden, all their eyes were focused on him. On the trench, Hitaki Kusuo stood with a sword. Across from him was a crowd of Iwagakure ninjas. There were dozens of teams, combined into a big team. One person against 100 people. Such a huge difference in numbers is enough to make anyone feel deeply desperate. However, the situation at this moment is completely reversed. A large group of Iwagakure ninjas swallowed their saliva and looked at Hitaki Kusuo as if they had seen a god. Even if the other party held the sword and did not move. But the invisible pressure forced them to sweat. Captain, what should we do? Akagi is the captain of this squadron, with a round body and a rolling head. At the moment, facing the questions from his teammates, cold sweat also appeared on his slightly honest head. What to do? He also wants to know. The teacher, the third Tsuchikage Onoki, has clearly told everyone under his command. If you see Kusuo Hitaki on the battlefield, you can escape on your own and it will not be considered a deserter. It is already enough respect. It is comparable to the former White Fang, Yellow Flash and Uchiha Shisui. But, can they escape? Everyone be alert. Once the enemy makes a move, leave and perform the ninjutsu combined attack technique. Akagi shouted to the people around him, his expression heavy. Hitaki Kusuo stared at them calmly and slowly raised the sword in his hand. Clang. The sound of the sword rang out. The silver blade reflected the dazzling light under the sun. His movements were gentle and peaceful. In the eyes of the other party, it was like the god of death swinging the scythe in his hand. Finally, someone couldn't help it. He opened his mouth wildly and showed a scared expression. Others saw this and attacked together. Hundreds of people formed seals at the same time and shouted in unison. Earth escape. Earthquake core. Boom. The ground shook violently. Like an earthquake, the ground began to collapse. One after another, huge rocks rose from the ground and rushed towards Hitaki Kusuo. Oh no! It's a combined ninjutsu. Under the trench. The ninjas of Konoha were all shocked. They were defeated by this move just now. The earthquake core performed by hundreds of people together can cover a range and change the terrain that is definitely not just a B-level ninjutsu. It has broken through ordinary A-level ninjutsu and is close to S-level. What to do? How will Lord Kusuo crack it? Not only them, Akatsuki standing on the opposite side also looked at Hitaki Kusuo nervously. As long as the combined attack technique on his side works, he will immediately summon the Gangly-style technique and smash it to pieces. Zero, please give me flowers. However, facing the huge stone pillars and earthquake that could shake the sky and split the earth alone, Kusuo Hitaki's face did not change at all. He only made 2 moves. Draw the sword and swing the knife. Simple. Clean. The action was done in one go. Swish. In an instant. A shocking sword light, to everyone's horror. Split the earth. The huge rocks along the way collapsed and were chopped into pieces. The ground rolled up. The scorched soil was exposed. The layers of earthquake-like cores met this terrible sword. The earth collapsed. Instantly, the destruction was overwhelming. It was completely gone without even a little resistance. The sword energy was brilliant, like frost and lightning. With the same momentum, he still slashed at the opponent. Akaji's round face was horrified, and he said in shock. Zero. Everyone, take emergency shelter. Retreat. The voice roared in his own team like a roar. Suddenly, the ninjas of the Hidden Earth Village, who had been moving in an orderly manner, scattered like birds and beasts in an instant, and became a mess. But how could their speed of escape catch up with the sword energy? A red line appeared between heaven and earth. From the waist, everyone was cut in half by a knife. Blood splashed out from the same horizontal line and splashed on the ground. Akaji used all his strength to summon an extremely thick stone, which barely blocked the remaining power of the sword. Until the sword energy dissipated, the world returned to peace again. Akaji just breathed a heavy breath, and leaned on the giant summoned in front of him with lingering fear. He looked back. The sight was desolate. The 100-man squadron that was bustling and well organized just now, except for himself, all died. Been killed by a sword. The whole process took less than a second. Gurgle. Akaji finally understood why Onoki kept telling him before he left. As long as you meet Hitaki Kusuo, retreat immediately without saying a word. Because as long as you don't run away as soon as you see him, it's too late. Such a means of massacre. Even if it was the yellow flash from more than a decade ago, Minato Namikaze would not be able to catch up. This scene. The Konoha ninjas in the trenches were also stunned. The captain's words still lingered in his ears. Not everyone is lucky enough to see Lord Kusuo draw his sword. That's right. It's really hard to have this luck. Because any enemy who saw Lord Kusuo draw his sword is basically dead. There is no chance of survival. Chapter 130. The wind and sand blew past. It lifted the sleeves of Kusuo Hitaki. The yellow sand swept across the ground. The fat face of Akaji, who was hiding behind the stone giant, was full of anxiety. What to do? What to do? He couldn't escape, he didn't have any escape skills. He also didn't learn the super light and heavy rock technique of his teacher Onoki, so he couldn't fly. He couldn't come and go freely. Everyone else was dead, and now he was the only one left, with drops of cold sweat dripping from his forehead. Then, Kusuo Hitaki moved. He walked towards him step by step with a sword in hand. Tap, tap, tap tilde. Every step, the rustling sound on the ground, was like the footsteps of the god of death, stepping heavily on Akaji's heart. Earth escape. Rock clone. Akaji gritted his teeth and would not sit and wait for death. He put his hands together and split out a thick stone clone that looked exactly like him. It lacked attack power, but had first-rate defense. Once, Akatsuchi used this move to fight with his teacher's granddaughter Kuritsuchi for a long time, and only shattered after enduring all of her attacks. Looking at the separated rock clone quickly attacking him, there was no ripple in Hitaki Kusuo's eyes, and he waved the sword in his calm hand casually. It was a casual move. Swish. A clear sword light flashed. Cut through the void. The rock clone that was once famous throughout the Hidden Rock Village and was highly expected by his teacher, the third-generation Tsuchikage Onoki, was actually cut open by a single sword. One sword. Just one sword. The blade was smooth, like a mirror. What a terrible swordsmanship. Without saying a word. After seeing his most common defensive method being broken in seconds, Akatsuchi, and ran away. What a pity. It's too late to run now. Hitaki Kusuo whispered. He waved his hand again. Buzz. The sword pressure soared into the sky. The red sword energy was wrapped in amazing power, bringing the scorching heat of the sun. It seemed that there were two suns in the world. Before the sword energy caught up with him, Akatsuki felt that his back was about to be melted by the scorching heat. Swish. A dull sword slash. In the end, Akatsuki's body was split into two, and he fell to the ground unwillingly. Dead. Akatsuki died. So far, this batch of Iwagakure ninjas were completely wiped out. This shocking scene deeply shocked all the Konoha ninjas behind. Even if the two swords were aimed at the enemy, the coldness of the sword and the irresistible sword force made their pores tremble. The feeling of dancing on the sword and brushing against death made their backs sweat. Gurgle. Captain, you are right, Lord Kusuo is so strong. Until now. They couldn't believe that the Iwagakure team that had been chasing them for 3 days and 3 nights was killed by two swords. Not a single one was left alive. That Akagi. Captain Konoha recognized him. He was the guard of the Tsuchikage. He was killed by Lord Kusuo with a single blow. There was no room for struggle from beginning to end. Similarly, as the guard of the cage, the gap. It's like heaven and earth. Lord Kusuo. After Hitaki Kusuo dealt with the people of Iwagakure, he put away his sword and walked back. Everyone looked at him. There was awe and fear in his eyes. If they had only respected Hitaki Kusuo because of his glorious achievements before. Now, I am still in shock after witnessing the swordsmanship of Kusuo Hitaki with my own eyes. Such a terrifying strength. I can only say. Fortunately, they are teammates. If they were born on the opposite side, they would not even have the courage to resist. Just like the previous Iwagakure squadron. More than 100 ninjas. Among them, there are many elite Chunins and even Jonins. Akataki himself is the best among the Jonins, but he can't even take a single sword. After hearing their greetings, Kusuo Hitaki said, lightly. Put the sword back into the sheath and prepare to leave. Lord Kusuo. Where are you going? As a representative, the captain asked what everyone wanted to ask. Kusuo Hitaki shook his hand and said lightly. Continue to the next battlefield. As for you, I have arranged a backup plan. Don't worry about the ninjas of Iwagakure. This sentence is mysterious. Lord Kusuo is powerful and needs support in various battlefields. They understood this. But what did the latter sentence mean by, arranged a backup plan? Could it be possible that Konoha's reinforcements would come? But Konoha had to deal with 3 countries at once, and all the available troops were deployed on various battlefields. How could there be any spare strength to support here? With deep doubts. Their team still listened to Hitaki Kusuo's words and kept quiet. The trenches and various detonating talisman traps were dug again and again. In the evening, lighted a fire and cooked. The whole process took only 3 minutes. The time was strictly controlled. On the battlefield, any fire would attract the enemy's attention. Even if it was confirmed during the day that the entire squadron of more than 100 people of the enemy had been wiped out, the ninja iron rules that should be paid attention to still needed to be paid attention to. Suddenly, enemy attack. Several Chunins who went out to urinate seemed to have seen something incredible. He was so scared that he rolled and crawled back to the military tent. What? Another enemy attack. The captain was still recovering from his injuries, but he still struggled to get up and prepare to deal with the enemy attack when he heard the sound. But when all the dozen of them came outside, they were all dumbfounded. They saw thousands of invulnerable terracotta warriors standing neatly in front of them. In the front, there was a girl in purple clothes, long light golden hair and amber eyes. The girl had a graceful figure, and her whole body exuded holy and dark chakra fluctuations. Xian looked at them and whispered, "All of you stand in a row and accept my chakra gift." The voice was crisp and pleasant, but it had irrefutable power. A dozen people stood in a row as instructed. Xian fired more than a dozen ghost larvae from her palms. The purple-black larva found the group of Konoha ninjas and quickly drilled into their wrists. Instantly, the purple-black light was bright. Like a faint light, it dyed the whole world mysterious and quiet. Okay, now you have my chakra, you can temporarily control the damage and restoration of these terracotta warriors 10 times. With their help, we should be able to defend this line of defense. After saying that, Xian then retracted the chakra fluctuations all over her body, and the holy white light and the purple-black dim light went out at the same time. Only thousands of terracotta warriors and Konoha ninjas were left. These people looked at each other, opened their mouths slightly, and wondered what was going on, where to start. After a long time, the girl had already left. One of them said in shock, I feel my chakra has increased by more than 3 times. Me too. Just like the chakra I cultivated myself, stored in my wrist. Everyone, look. I seem to be able to control these stone men. They didn't know that what was in front of them was the terracotta warriors. I can, too. Excitement, surprise, and astonishment were stirring in the entire camp. At this time, they suddenly thought. So, the backup plan that Lord Kusuo mentioned when he left in the morning was this powerful chakra and the control of thousands of stone men. Great. The captain dragged his seriously injured body and clenched his fist secretly. The strength of the terracotta warriors is very high, and it can only be completely broken by a full-strength attack at the level of a Jonin. And here. There are thousands of them. And the beautiful girl said. Their chakra can destroy and restore them more than 10 times. Brothers, we must defend this place well. We must not let Lord Kusuo down. Yes. Chapter 131. Swoosh. Hitaki Kusuo flew across the land, and Tsunade's words before leaving flashed through his mind. Currently, the main battlefields of the 3 major countries are concentrated in the Land of Demons, the Land of Rain, and the Land of Hot Springs. Due to the geographical location of the Land of Demons, most of the troops are ninjas from the Hidden Rock Village, and the number of coalition forces is small. The most difficult. On the contrary, it is the Land of Rain and the Land of Hot Springs. In these 2 battlefields, one has the participation of the Akatsuki organization, and all the S-level rebel ninjas are powerful, and the deterrent power is like a sword hanging over their heads, and Konoha has to guard against it. For this reason, Konoha sent Jiraiya to support and spy on intelligence. The other is the Land of Hot Springs. The pressure mainly comes from the coalition forces of the Hidden Cloud Village and the Hidden Mist Village. The attributes of the 2 villages can complement each other. The combined attack techniques they used on the battlefield are even more effective than the Sand Village and Rock Village, which were originally the best. One-sided. The ninjas of Konoha were beaten to a pulp. Once they encountered a large-scale ninja coalition, they could only run away in panic. If this continues, sooner or later, they will be driven into the Land of Fire. But the most serious problem is not this. It is that Konoha is fighting on 3 fronts, with a large number of troops scattered on 3 battlefields, so each front is at an absolute disadvantage. What Hitaki Kusuo has to do now? It is to strike decisively with a thunderous wrist. Clear the battlefield of the Land of Demons, which has the least battlefield pressure. It is not selfish or public-spirited. The peace of the Land of Demons is the primary goal of him and Xian. With the addition of Xian, a large amount of demon chakra was allocated to the Konoha ninjas in each battle zone, As well as the huge terracotta army, it greatly relieved the pressure on the side. Of course, the puppetry of the Wuliang is not invincible, but is limited by region and time. But as long as Xi'an is in the territory of the Land of Demons, the terracotta army can provide continuous support. This is the perversion of the perfect Wuliang Jinchuriki. At this time, on the main battlefield of the Land of Demons, corpses are everywhere, and smoke is everywhere. This place has been shattered by various earth escape and fire escape ninjutsu, and it is a mess. The whole land is almost a ruin. The leader of the Iwagakure ninja army is Onoki clan member, Ono Shio. He commands the power of almost half of the Iwagakure village. He is approaching the Land of Demons layer by layer, and the ninjas of Konoha are defeated step by step. Teacher Kai. Let us go. Now is the most critical moment, it's time to implement our ninja way. Little Lee stood in front of Kai, his two thick eyebrows flying up and down with excitement. Kai. He is the commander-in-chief of the Konoha coalition. At this moment, his body is also covered with scars, and his soft watermelon head is covered with a lot of dust. Lee. Now is not the time, we are not at the end of our rope yet. He said to Little Lee in a low voice and seriously. Tenten and Ninki beside him also nodded in agreement. Indeed, after these days of fighting, I found that they don't seem to want to fight us head-on. Instead, they use large-scale ninjutsu to force us back every time. There has never been a real physical battle with swords and spears. Yeah, it feels so strange. Ninki and Tenten frowned and analyzed. As their guiding ninja, Kai has seen the struggles between villages and knows everything in his heart. Similar to the Three Kingdoms alliance, this is a purely profit-driven war. The major villages all have their own hidden motives. It is basically impossible for them to send out all their forces, and they are unwilling to let their villages suffer too many casualties. They all want to sit back and watch other ninja villages fight with Konoha, and then take advantage of it. At the lowest cost. In exchange for the highest bargaining chips. This is also the reason why Konoha can still struggle to hold on to the three-front war. If there is no external pressure, this situation will continue. Until the national strength of the Fire Country, to which Konoha belongs, is completely dragged down by this war, the three major countries will then rush forward and start a decisive battle. Oh no! Lord Kai. The enemy has launched another attack. This time the scale seems to be a bit large. Suddenly, a Konoha ninja rushed in from outside the tent, kneeling on one knee in panic to report the military situation. Notify everyone, get ready immediately. Kai didn't say anything more, and directly ordered the entire army to be on alert. However, when he arrived at the battlefield with Little Lee Ninki and Tiantian, his scalp felt numb. Everywhere he looked, all were ninjas from the Hidden Rock village. There was no end in sight. Kai was shocked. I didn't understand why the other party suddenly changed their strategy. Not only him, all the ninjas of Konoha were panicked and in chaos. They didn't know. Not long ago, Akagi, the personal guard of the Tsuchikage, was killed by Hitaki Kusuo with a sword. This incident made Onoki furious. At the same time, because of the constant urging of the other two major countries. Therefore, the third-generation Tsuchikage slammed the table directly and started the decisive battle in advance. Ono Shio stood at the front. As the middle-aged pillar of the Onoki family, his strength was at its peak. The strength of the top Jonin was too much for Kai to handle. If the latter did not open the 7 or 8 gates, it would be difficult to resist. On the battlefield, the flags fluttered. As a ninja, the most important means of combat was still the confrontation of ninjutsu. Ono Shio was not vague at all, and there was no childish means such as shouting before the battle. As he raised his right hand high and went down again, countless Iwagakure ninjas merged into a torrent and took a step forward at the same time. Earth escape. Mudslide waterfall technique. Earth escape. Rock collapse. Earth escape. Super hardening technique. Earth escape. Earth flow gun. One move after another of ninjutsu was released. More than a dozen Jonins and hundreds of Chunins performed ninjutsu. How powerful is the power? When gathered together, it was simply earth-shattering. The scene was shocking. Boom boom. It was like a natural disaster. The ground under the feet of the ninjas of Konoha suddenly began to crumble. Many ninjas who did not have time to dodge fell into the cracks in the ground, and were then pierced by the sharp rock spears or swallowed by the mudslide. Not only that. In the clear and cloudless sky. Now it is densely packed, with countless earth flow spears, as many as hundreds. Under the blessing of the super hardening technique. Indestructible, the spear tip is shining with a sharp cold light. The earth flow spears as thick as fists are like a storm, shooting towards Konoha all over the sky. Fire style. Dragon flame song technique. Fire style. Great flame bullet technique. Water style. Water break wave. After the Konoha ninjas reacted, they quickly took their positions, spewing a large amount of flames and sharp water from their mouths. In an instant. Water and fire intertwined, and the wind and thunder changed. Countless ninjutsu began to collide in the sky. Bang, bang, bang. The huge power changed the color of the sky. The earth shook, and the earth, rocks and steam fell all over the ground. Guy was anxious and made a quick decision to open the 8 gates of ninja technique at once. Hualala. The blue steam boiled. Might Guy opened directly to the 7th gate. Your opponent is us. 4 figures flashed in the sky, blocking Kai's steps. Shockingly. These people are all elite Jonins from the Hidden Rock Village in the Land of Earth. Fire Light Land of Earth. Suma Shi Land of Earth. The Land of the Dead in the East. The Land of the Leech. These 4 are all powerful ninjas who have participated in the 3 wars and led their armies to cause huge losses to Konoha. Now, although they are over 50 years old, their strength is still there. It can be said. It is very scary. Even a cage-level strongman may not be able to fall in their hands. Now, 4 elite Jonins, facing Kai alone. And in the camp of Iwagakure. There is even a member of the Onoki clan, the top level of Jonin, and even the edge of cage level, Ono Shio. After Kai opened the 7 gates, there were also drops of sweat under his inverted hair. I don't know if it's because of nervousness. Or because of the air steam brought by the huge pressure of the 7 gates. The 4 elite Jonins with the name of the Land of the Earth looked at Kai who opened the 8 gates, although they had smiles on their faces. They were still cautious in their hearts. Once Might opened all 8 gates. It is no secret that most of the 7 Kurigakure were kicked to death. And the Kai in front of them is even stronger than his father. However, their mission is just to delay, not to fight to the death. As long as the opponent does not open the 8 gates. They have absolute confidence to buy time for their teammates in the main battlefield. The atmosphere begins to be low. The air pressure slowly decreases. However, at this critical moment, swish, the sword rings. The bright light slashes the sky and earth, splitting them apart. A bright sword energy comes across the sky. This scene stuns all the ninjas present. The terrifying and amazing sword pressure and powerful aura force everyone to bow their heads. Haha, if you rely on your numbers to bully the few, I won't agree. Dressed in red. Falling from the sky with a sword. That man. He's here. Chapter 132, Who is it? The sudden sword energy interrupted the momentum of the 4 elite Jonins of the Hidden Rock Village. And this brilliant and sharp slash. It tore the entire sky apart, splitting it in half, and even directly swept away all the combined ninjutsu on the battlefield. Strong. Terrible. Unparalleled. Such a powerful force and amazing range. If it's not an S-level ninjutsu, then what is it? The man who can make a slash comparable to an S-level ninjutsu is still from Konoha. The only answer. That is. That man, he's here. Oh no, the monster from Konoha is here. At this moment. The Fire Country and the 3 teammates looked at each other, their faces full of solemnity. Originally. The Hidden Rock Village already had an absolute advantage on the battlefield. Whether it was the level of Jonin or Chunin, the number of people was absolutely ahead. Konoha was completely unable to catch up. After all. as long as they could prevent the green precious beast in front of them from opening the last gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu. They, the Hidden Rock Village, would definitely win. However, the arrival of Kusuo Hitaki. It broke this situation abruptly. Great. Kusuo, I'll leave the main battlefield to you. After Kai opened the 7 gates, his dynamic vision was extraordinary. When others were just guessing, he had already seen the true face of the visitor. Immediately, Kai became excited, and without hesitation, he put his palms together and shouted. Towards Peacock. He rushed out quickly. The pure white pupils of Jingmun exuded extreme danger. Dozens of fast punches, friction with the air produced a large amount of flames, and used this flame and shock wave to go straight to the other side's 4 elite ninjas. Not good. Retreat. The people of Huogong Tuzhiguo knew that they could not take this move head-on, and they flashed and retreated immediately. The next second, Kai's figure appeared above them again. He retracted a fist into his arms and was ready to go, his body tense, like a dormant tiger. Day Tiger. Boom. A violent sound. It penetrated the eardrums. The ultra-high-speed punch crushed everything and violently shattered the air in front of Kai, compressing it into a solid air cannon and firing it out. Such a super high-level physical technique. This scene. It made the 4 Earth Country ninjas scalp numb. Speed and power. It is not at the same level at all. Is such a ninjutsu explosion too unreasonable? Earth Escape. Earth Defense Dome Wall Technique Diaresis. Earth Escape. Super Hardening Technique. The 4 people jointly performed an A-level ninjutsu and a B-level ninjutsu. In the sky, a dome that blocked the sky was created. The thick and tough dome was blessed with the super hardening technique, and with the chakra support and joint casting of the 4 elite ninjas, it was indestructible. Boom. A shocking impact. Zuhu's white air cannon hit it head-on. The terrifying airflow swept across the world. After a violent shake, the dome atmosphere had huge cracks, which were densely covered with cracks. However, what made the 4 Earth Country ninjas relieved was that they used up all their chakras to defend it. In this case, they looked at each other and made hand seals together again. Earth Escape. Super Hardening Technique. The 4 elite ninjas reinforced the dome wall that had just cracked, and the A-level ninjutsu Earth Defense dome wall was intact again. This time, relying on the tactic of hiding in the tortoise shell, they delayed Kai's pace. Little trick. Hitaki Kusuo had landed in the center of the battlefield, facing the thousands of troops of the Hidden Rock Village without any scruples. He looked at the Hidden Rock ninjas who made hand seals and cast spells together at any time, and his face showed disdain. No matter how many ants there are, can they shake an elephant? Swish. The sword in his hand was lightly waved. A crack passed through the sky, and the sound of crackling ice crystals crackled. The sword energy trembled lightly while accumulating strength. As if, once it was slashed out, it had the power to hit the sky. Hitaki Kusuo's sword temporarily stagnated the originally bloody and tense atmosphere on the battlefield. He alone. He blocked an army. The Jonin and Chunin of Iwagakure looked at him in doubt. The intelligence contained information about Hitaki Kusuo. However, it was the same for any village, and there were not enough things that were not understood at a low level. They only knew that Hitaki Kusuo's swordsmanship was terrible, and that he could even suppress the tailed beasts and defeat the cage-level strongmen. But, so what? They had more than a dozen Jonin, hundreds of Chunin, and countless genin coalitions. The leader was Lord Uno Shio, who was deeply trusted by the 3rd Tsuchikage. There was no reason for them not to win. Therefore, everyone showed a cruel smile on their faces. It was as if watching Hitaki Kusuo swinging his sword was a child's play. Swish. The sword energy finally came. Just in midair. The sharp breath made people's cheeks hurt. This sword covered half of the battlefield. Almost all the ninjas of the Hidden Rock Village were under the sword range. However, as expected of a ninja army that has seen blood on the battlefield, the Iwagakure side immediately recovered from the brief palpitations, and there was not much fear on their faces. The same thing. We have so many strong people, how could so many people be afraid of a teenager? More than a dozen Jonins took the lead. Earth Escape. Earth Dome Technique. Then, there were hundreds of chunins and more genins. Earth escape. Earth flow wall technique. The surging chakra, visible to the naked eye, poured from everyone into the earth wall and dome wall rising from the ground. The ninjutsu performed by so many ninjas reasonably almost created an artificial wall. The earth flow wall, which was dozens of meters high and nearly 10 meters behind, blocked the first line of defense. The thickness alone made people's scalps numb. The sword energy was brilliant, with a strong momentum. He slashed at the defensive tortoise shell of the Iwagakure without hesitation. Boom. One sword. The earth wall almost collapsed. The inertia brought by the powerful force made the whole earth tremble. This sudden earthquake made them slip, and they were oppressed by the terrifying sword energy and fell to the ground. This one sword almost cut through the ninjutsu of hundreds or thousands of them. What kind of monster is this? When Uno Shio saw this scene, his eyes jumped, and his heart almost jumped out of his chest. He gritted his teeth. He said word by word. Everyone returned to their positions. Reinforce the earth wall. In order. It was like giving the Iwagakure ninjas a reassurance. They all climbed up from the ground, put their hands King Jiao's together again, and made the almost collapsed earth wall intact again. Damn it. These bastards will only hide in their shells when they see Lord Kusuo coming. Why call it Iwagakure Village? Why not change it to Kamehameha Village? Ha ha ha. Well said, it's Kamehameha Village. The ninjas of Konoha felt their scalps tingling, and a surge of anger surged in their hearts. They had been suppressed for so long. Now, the situation has finally reversed. They saw Lord Kusuo use a sword to force all the enemies of Iwagakure to bow their heads. However, the group of bastards who were in a stalemate did not intend to attack, but instead began to build a turtle shell to hide. Dad is a coward, and Mom is a coward. You Kamehameha Village, are the women not good enough? The ninjas of Konoha laughed, ready to use words to stimulate the other side and create opportunities for Lord Kusuo. It's just the tale. How dare these Iwagakure ninjas come out after feeling the sword energy that destroyed the world? Even if they are scolded now, they can only be cowardly. Don't dare to come out. Chapter 133. Hitaki Kusuo has never said a word from beginning to end. His appearance and attack have always been clean and neat. Facing the enemy. Always the sword in his hand speaks. These ninjas from the hidden rock village thought that they could be fine if they hid in the defensive earth flow wall. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. Little did they know. In the eyes of Hitaki Kusuo, all this is just a struggle to survive. The sword is raised high. With a trajectory that cuts through the sky. This time. He didn't sweep horizontally, but chopped vertically. Hitaki Kusuo's breathing gradually became heavy. Under the strong and linear body, there is a surging blood and energy surging, clattering, the sound is as deep as thunder, the flow of rivers and streams, rushing endlessly. At this moment, the sword body has turned gray without knowing when. Rock breathing. The biggest disadvantage is that the interval between swords is too long, and the casting action is too slow. Its advantages are. Each strike has a force of 10,000 kilograms. Boom. A figure teleported in. The sword body chopped down vertically, like splitting a mountain and falling into the earth, with the power of thousands of troops. Rock breathing form 3. Shatter the sky. Boom. The air exploded. The back of the blade chopped on the thick earth wall, but the small blade burst out with unimaginable terrible power. Stupefied. Shocked. In the incredible eyes of everyone. One strike. Chopped the earth wall. This strike, with the momentum of a mountain, smashed the hearts of every rock village ninja. The invincible defense they thought they had. They thought that even if the Hokage came in person, they could not break the earth wall. It was chopped into pieces with one knife. A lot of dirt and mud fell and scattered on everyone's head. Looking at the emotionless face of Kusuo Hitaki, everyone was filled with fear. Including the leader of this unit, Shio Ono. Swallowing sounds came one after another. But they still have the last hope. The Earth Dome. This stretching across the sky is their last line of defense. Fire style. Great Fire Dragon Technique. Wind Style. Big Breakthrough. The ninjas of Konoha did not wait at this moment. Among them, except for Kai, the only senior ninja who spit out a 10-meter-long fire dragon in the air, roaring with scorching heat. And it hit heavily on the last defensive earth wall of Iwagakure. This blow directly shook up waves, and the flames grew wildly on it. However, the earth dome performed by more than a dozen senior ninjas together, the dome just trembled. Nothing was hurt. This scene was seen by the Konoha ninja who wanted to help, revealing great despair. Yes. More than a dozen Jonins fighting against one Jonin. Although the opponent had suddenly launched a decisive battle and deployed troops in advance, the gap was still so big that it made people despair. On the contrary, such a scene, in the eyes of the Chunin and Genin of the Hidden Rock Village, it was simply a blessing from heaven. Yes. They still have more than a dozen Jonins. The combined attack-defense ninjutsu with full force is invincible. Just because the man could perform a move that shattered their earth flow wall with one blow, it doesn't mean that he can still perform it. Almost everyone was full of excitement and expectations. Except Uno Shio. He knew it well. The sword energy that this man casually slashed out was almost comparable to the attack of a cage-level strongman. And it was fired continuously, as if it was free. Looking at the history of the entire ninja world, the only one who can possess this ability is Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage who pacified the chaotic world and suppressed the entire ninja world single-handedly. Others, even the tailed beasts, can't do it. They have enough chakra, but the power is indeed insufficient. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes are indifferent. His original intention was to quickly clean up the battlefield and completely relieve the pressure from the demon country. And now, too much time has been wasted. Shion is still distributing chakra everywhere under his signal. All the battlefields he has cleaned up are now blessed with the chakra of the monsters and the terracotta warriors. So, it's time to end this here. The eyes were stern. Half of the sky's air was swept in by Hitaki Kusuo. A huge amount of oxygen entered the body and was quickly decomposed and utilized by cells after being blessed by the breath of rock. Rock breathing form 5. Balan Kibu. He took out the scabbard and the blade at the same time. He used his left and right hands crosswise, and a gray, heavy light was shrouded in it, carrying a heavy breath. Bang! A muffled groan. The sword body chopped on the wall of the earth dome. Immediately, a large number of cracks appeared. Bang! The scabbard was also smashed out with his backhand. Like a meteorite falling from the sky, it pierced through the entire dome with an unstoppable momentum. And the momentum showed no sign of stopping. The pupils of the Iwagakure ninjas could only dilate helplessly, watching the scabbard falling from the sky and hitting their foreheads. Bang! In an instant, more than a dozen Chunins from the Sand Village, and even a Jonin, were smashed to pieces by the scabbard that hit the ground. The flesh was all exploded. Bloody and brutal. The picture was, gurgle gurgle. The sword in Hitaki Kusuo's right hand chopped down again. The dome wall that was originally pierced by the scabbard was torn open again. The whole person flashed. And landed on the ground. Face the Iwagakure ninja at close range. During the process, the gray light of the sword disappeared and turned into golden lightning again. Zzz. There were arcs of light in the pupils of Hitaki Kusuo's eyes. High-pressure golden and red lightning surrounded his body, like the god of thunder descending. The huge high-pressure lightning evaporated the blood and limbs under his feet and during the landing. Hitaki Kusuo's body did not become dirty and wrinkled because of the battle just now. This. Uno Shio's pupils shrank. Heart thumped uncontrollably. No matter how deep he breathed, he could not stop the wild secretion of adrenaline in his body. As the commander, he was already like this. How much better could other Chunin and Genin with lower strength be? Teeth were chattering. The eyeballs were trembling. The hand holding the weapon was shaking uncontrollably. Ah! Ah! Crazy roars began to resound throughout the battlefield. They could only regain a little control of their bodies through such exhausting shouts. Hitaki Kusuo. He had killed no less than a few thousand ninjas from beginning to end. In the Battle of Sand Village alone, almost all the Jonin and Chunin in their entire village were wiped out. That kind of murderous intent and evil spirit had long been hidden in his body. However, when he started the massacre during the Konoha collapse plan, he was able to completely control this energy. The energy of the strong and the bloodthirsty. Now, he attacked these ninjas who were only genin and chunin without reservation, almost making them pee their pants in fear. Trample. A slight, trembling sound of footsteps was heard. Uno Shio. As a member of the 3rd Tsuchikage, the second strongest man in the clan, the commander of this ninja coalition. Even in such an environment and atmosphere, no matter how scared he was, he still bravely took this step. Only in this way can we give a little confidence to the morale that is almost collapsing. Seeing the commander's action, the remaining dozen or so Jonin also held back their fear and stepped forward to block in front. To give their companions hope and courage. What a pity. Puff. A light sword mark passed by. With crackling electric arcs. Hitaki Kusuo swung his sword horizontally and directly cut off Ono Shio's head. The whole process was casual and indifferent. The ninjas of Iwagakure discovered. Hitaki Kusuo he didn't even look at their leader. That's it. He was killed in one blow. The leader of the Iwagakure army, Ono Shio, died. At that moment, all the people in Iwagakure felt as if the sky had fallen. Chapter 134. Dead. The leader of their own army was killed with just one blow. Everyone's eyes were dull, watching the scene happen stupidly. Hitaki Kusuo watched the other's head being cut off so easily by himself. With a calm look. He felt a little emotional. To be the leader of the Iwagakure village in charge of the demon country, Ono Shio's strength and talent are definitely not weak. He can be said to be a leader, otherwise he would not be entrusted with important tasks by the 3rd Tsuchikage Onoki and take charge of the army. In fact, Hitaki Kusuo could indeed sense from his breathing and momentum that this ninja Tilda was not weak. Even stronger than his cousin Kakashi, an excellent ninja who has almost stepped into the concept of cage level. It is very rare for ninjas of this level to be one-sided. All kinds of substitution techniques, life-saving skills and physical fitness have reached perfection. Even if it is not low, he can always hold on for a while or escape by retreating. But it happened. That man was killed by a sword without any room for resistance. It was so easy that even Hitaki Kusuo himself was surprised. Death will. Fear. These two things. They are definitely the biggest taboos on the battlefield of life and death. Once upon a time, Hitaki Kusuo himself was still an unknown genin. Even Danzo was watching him from the shadows. Now, in just a few years, he has grown to the point where he can make a dignified top jonin lose his fighting spirit with just his reputation. He casually swept his eyes over the Iwagakure in front of him and slowly raised the sword in his hand. Ziz. The sword was wrapped in golden lightning. It struck the negative oxygen ions in the air, producing blue arcs. Perhaps they thought they had no way out and could not retreat. Perhaps the death of the leader of the Iwagakure army gave them a strong stimulus. The dozen or so Jonin captains had despair and determination in their eyes, and gritted their teeth and began to make seals. Earth escape. Earth flow river. One of them spat out a pool of sticky mud, which quickly expanded after falling to the ground. In a blink of an eye, the entire ground turned into a muddy swamp. The stickiness and corrosiveness of the swamp bubbled, forcing back the sword that Kusuo Hitaki was about to attack. They had already spotted Kusuo Hitaki's only weakness. Can't fly. No matter how sharp Kusuo Hitaki's sword is, as long as it can't cut him down, it is no threat. At the same time, another Jonin also stood up. He is the most special ninja among this group of people, with a fusion ninjutsu of fire and earth attributes, fusion escape. As a leader of the special assassination force of Iwagakure, he relied on the blood limit of the melting escape technique to roam the battlefield and was invincible in small-scale battles. Originally, he thought that this battle could be won without bloodshed, but who knew that such a strong opponent would appear halfway. Get out of the way. He strode forward and shouted at his companions. Then, he clasped his hands together. Melting escape. Lava giant arm technique. Boom. A mouthful of hot and rich magma spurted out of his mouth, and turned into a huge magma arm in the air, which was the size of 3 or 4 adult bodies. With one grip, he could crush a person to death in his palm and melt him into charcoal. The other dozen or so Jonins exerted their strength at the same time, and various earth escape ninjutsu mixed with ninjutsu of other attributes swept towards Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo raised the sword wrapped with golden thunder. Jonin. As expected, they can't be underestimated. Although he has the strength to kill them easily, only one sword is enough. But they can see that the sudden force of the thunder sword technique requires the solid ground under his feet, and then he can use the ninjutsu of changing the terrain such as the earth-flowing river. Add to that the fusion ninja. Very young, the power of the bloodline limit greatly increases the strength of the ninja. The golden thunder sword in the hands of Kusuo Hitaki can only be slashed quickly, and cannot destroy the enemy on a large scale. This huge lava monster arm, in a sense, has completed the Krahu sword technique. What should we do? Should we go up to help? Lord Kusuo is already deeply surrounded, and it may be too late for us to continue watching. The mood of the Konoha side. It fluctuates with the situation of Kusuo Hitaki. From killing Shio Uno with one sword to being restricted by the terrain now. They became anxious and wanted to rush up to help. Wait. Besides Kai, there are other senior ninjas here. He stopped in a deep voice and stared at the situation over there seriously. We are too weak. We can't even handle the mud flow over there. What can you do? Are you going to die? The roar was almost like a reprimand. All the Chunin and Genin in Konoha lowered their heads. Among them, Ningji, who had been promoted to Chunin, and Xiaoli were watching anxiously on both sides. On one side was Teacher Kai. After opening the 7 gates of ninjutsu, the 4 elite Jonin who beat the opponent could not get away. On the other side was Hitaki Kusuo. It looks like it has been surrounded by large-scale ninjutsu and bloodline, and is in danger. Ninki, what should we do? Tenten is still used to asking Ninki, the former genius, when the teacher is not around. Zero, please give me flowers. Ninki, who has his Byakugan on, does not need to look back and forth. With his almost full vision, he can take in both battlefields at the same time. The comparison of their respective combat power and the possibility are calculated rapidly in Ningqi's brain. After a few breaths, Ningqi gritted his teeth and pointed in the direction of Kai and said, "Let's go to help Teacher Kai. The captain of the Jonin just now is right. We can't even crack the opponent's ninjutsu. How can we help? And have you forgotten the strength of Kusuo?" As soon as these words came out, Tenten and Xiaoli suddenly realized. Their most intuitive understanding of the strength of Hitaki Kusuo was the public execution of Danzo in Konoha Square a few years ago. That kind of momentum. It makes people feel scared, and they don't want to be enemies with it. I hope Kusuo is safe. Since the decision has been made, Team Tenten immediately rushed to Kai's place. On the road, the scroll was unfolded, and a large number of chakra weapons and ninja tools appeared out of thin air and shot out. Good teamwork. Hitaki Kusuo has already seen the giant lava arm above his head about to fall in front of him, and his movements are not panic at all. The sword body turned. It turned into azure blue. It seemed that the air around was much moister, and the ground that was dried due to the high temperature of the melting escape was also moisturized a lot. The earth. It turned into swamps, lava, and wet soil. A mere fight before the battle can change the terrain into such a terrifying way. Hitaki Kusuo moved. With a flick of his wrist, the azure sword body rippled with circles of water. Water-breathing 10th form. Flowing. Hitaki Kusuo's body spun rapidly on the ground and gradually flew into the air. This fierce whirlwind brought waves, hitting the ground and splashing crystal water droplets. Petal-shaped water knives bloomed from his body and became sharper as his body rotated. The speed was getting faster and faster. The hum of the water knives became more and more intense. Sizzle. The blue sword blade hit the giant lava arm. A clash. Just a clash and it crushed it. The hot and flowing lava cooled rapidly after being touched by the cold and sharp water splashes, and turned into rocks and fell to the ground. This is impossible. The bloody ninja from the Iwagakure Anbu was dumbfounded, shocked and unbelievable. He would never believe that a mere sword blade could defeat his signature skill. That kind of casual understatement. It was as if it was just an ant encountered during the sword blade's movement. It doesn't matter if you just crush it. Chapter 135. This sword directly cut the rolling magma in the middle, bubbling with hot bubbles, and cut a path. Then, Hitaki Kusuo stepped on the stone soil that was completely cooled and solidified by the magma, and swung his sword at the Iwagakure troops without emotion. This. How is it possible? My earth flow river was cut into a wave by a sword. At this moment, looking at the scene in front of them, the Jonin who jointly performed the earth escape earth flow river technique trembled in their hearts, their faces full of disbelief. This sword. It was too powerful. The devastating blow broke through their swamp like cutting through the sea. You know, the mud in the swamp is many times stickier than mud. Even the first generation of the impure world reincarnation Hashirama Senju and the second generation of the Hokage Senju Tobarama Senju could not easily solve this move of the third generation of the Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. But Kusuo Hitaki used one sword. 763 was extremely domineering. Cut the entire swamp. And he came with a sword. Run. These Jonin and the blood-stained ninja of the fusion release made a quick decision and wanted to escape. Facing such a monster, the previous round of fighting had consumed all their courage. Now, they had no intention of fighting at all, and slammed their hands on the floor, just wanting to run for their lives. The next second. Puff. A crisp sword sound. The sharp and cold sword light slashed at their necks with clear water splashes. A cool feeling came over them. Stuck. Everyone froze. Stupefied for a few seconds, the senior ninjas of Iwagakure village subconsciously touched the cool part of their necks and found blood on their hands. They had expressions of shock and disbelief on their faces. So fast. What a fast sword. Until the heads fell, they didn't even see how Kusuo Hitaki swung his sword to behead them. That speed. It was so fast that it made people despair and fear. The only remaining blood-stained ninja was even more panicked, and his face was bloodless. He even used the secret technique of the land of earth to drill deep underground. At the same time, a large amount of hot lava was ejected at the entrance, trying to stop Kusuo Hitaki's steps. What a pity. These tricks were nothing but trifles in Kusuo Hitaki's eyes. He stomped his feet hard. An astonishing momentum burst out. Then, Hitaki Kusuo raised his sword and slashed forward. Swish. A vertical sword energy. With water waves, it cut open all the ground in front. Under the panicked eyes of the bloody ninja, he cut his body with a sword. The body that was broken into two pieces was thrown on the ground casually, and blood was gushing out like a fountain. You run really fast. After dealing with these senior ninjas, Hitaki Kusuo found that the other ninjas were running fast. While he was killing his teammates, they almost disappeared at the end of his sight. He shook his head. Do you really think you can run away like this? Hitaki Kusuo's body suddenly changed its breathing, and the agility of the water flow turned into the majesty of the sun. The sword turned black. A sword was raised. He uttered softly. Sun-breathing 10th form. Wei Wei Angguang. Instantaneously. A sword energy that split the sky and covered the earth brought with it a brilliant sword power. Like the sun shining in the world. Carrying the sharp and fierce sword pressure. Roaring away with the rotating fire dragon and Yangan. One sword. Enough to cut through the sky. It was as if the sky and the earth changed color, more dazzling than the day. Not good. The fleeing Chunins of the Hidden Rock village felt the amazing sword energy behind them and were shocked. Quickly turned around and made seals with both hands. Earth escape. Earth flow wall. Earth escape. Super hardening technique. Earth escape. Rock rising technique. Hundreds and thousands of Chunins and Genins made seals at the same time to perform combined attack-defense ninjutsu. Stone pillars and earth walls rose from the ground and blocked them. The chakras of so many people surged together, and the blue chakra light beams were violent and rampant, pouring into these techniques crazily. Boom! The surface of the earth wall and stone pillars blessed with super-hardening techniques had cracks and disintegrated. Fragments began to fall. However, it seemed to be blocked. Hundreds of people breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. This guy is really abnormal. Just defending his attack even requires them to use all their strength to deal with it. I hope the 4 captains of the land of Earth can escape from the battlefield as soon as possible so that they can join us and escape. At this point, they no longer dare to expect to win on the battlefield. Being able to escape safely and survive is already the greatest victory. Hitaki Kusuo had a slight sneer on his lips. You can block my first sword energy. Then what about the second, third, and even fourth and fifth sword energy? What will you do at that time? Bang! His wrist suddenly exerted force 0. 3 consecutive sword energies that were no weaker than the one just slashed out were swung out one after another. Sword after sword. Hit the defense that the hidden rock village thought was perfect. Boom. 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 Instantly. Spider web-like cracks quickly spread across the entire earth wall, and then made a crackling sound as it could not bear the weight. The sword energy hit the earth wall. Even. The entire earth was violently cracking. The people with unstable center of gravity were swaying left and right. Hitaki Kusuo's powerful slash hit the earth flow wall and the rising rock pillar that continuously transported chakra from the hidden rock village. It was not like the face-to-face slashing before. Instead, it was hundreds of meters apart, and countless sword energies were slashed out from the air and slashed on it. Every time the sword energy hit the earth flow wall, it would bring a violent vibration to the hidden rock ninja who clapped his hands on the ground. This vibration came in waves, and they had already caused internal bleeding. With scarlet blood flowing from the corners of their mouths, many people were directly knocked unconscious. Hundreds of Chunins. Gradually, only 200 or 300 people were left, until 100 or 200, dozens of people. And now a dozen people. They were holding on to their last breath. Battled to maintain the integrity of the earth flow wall. On the ground, there were densely packed compatriots and teammates who were shaken to death. Finally, they were numb to the point that they didn't know how many sword energies they saw, breaking through their barriers and slashing on these people's bodies. The sharp cutting attribute made their bodies suddenly painful. But their hearts seemed to be completely relieved. They even smiled and spit out blood clots before they died. Finally, they can die. No longer have to face the perverted sword energy of that monster. So far, after Hitaki Kusuo arrived, except for the 4 elite Jonin from the Hidden Rock Village who were still entangled with Kai, the entire Hidden Rock Village coalition was wiped out. And it was also a small half of the manpower of the entire Iwagakure village. Except Onoki, Kuroto and Wangtu. All of them who came to the land of demons this time. Basically all of them were killed. At this time, Xian also happened to be late with thousands of terracotta warriors. She exuded a holy witch chakra aura and purple-black surging monster chakra fluctuations. Wherever the terracotta warriors went along the way, another land shook. The entire battlefield seemed to have never stopped shaking since the beginning of the battle. Chapter 136. When Xian landed, everything he saw was full of corpses, and many of the ninjas of the Iwagakure village died in extremely tragic ways, which was unbearable to look at. Even if he had seen too many battlefields, but seeing this scene all of a sudden, Xian still felt a little uncomfortable. Seeing that Xian's face was a little nauseous, Hitaki Kusuo walked over and pinched her hand. If it doesn't apply, don't look at it. Just give it to me in the future. Unexpectedly, Xian shook her head firmly, and then looked at Hitaki Kusuo seriously. I will try my best to adapt to the environment of the battlefield. I said I will help you in the future. Looking at the girl's innocent and firm eyes, Hitaki Kusuo's eyes softened, and he hugged her waist and held her in his arms. Okay, I believe you. On the other side, because Kai was no longer under the pressure of a large number of ninja coalition forces, he cooperated with a group of Konoha ninjas and his own strength. 4 elite Jonins from the land of Earth have been successfully captured alive. When Kai came over from the state of the 8 gates, he looked at the corpses on the ground and his eyes were almost scared. Hiss. He opened 7 gates of Kung Fu. All the people here are dead. This is too fast. In the past, all the wars in Konoha were fought over several days and nights. Hitaki Kusuo looked at Kai and said calmly. When I attacked, I didn't notice some scattered Iwagakure, so they attacked some of our ninjas. 06. Hearing what Hitaki Kusuo said, Kai gave a thumbs up. How can you be blamed for this? Life and death are common on the battlefield. They died for the village and are heroes of Konoha. On the contrary, we should be thankful for you, Kusuo. If it weren't for you, we might have suffered far more losses than this. Hitaki Kusuo certainly understood what he meant. When the time came, he would become the nutrient for the new leaves, open the last gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu, the Death Gate, and implement the Will of Fire. At that time, maybe he could solve the Iwagakure coalition faster than himself. Shaking his head. Put these messy thoughts behind. Since this place has been solved, we will leave first. After that, Hitaki Kusuo put his arm around Shien's waist and walked away without looking back. This. Kai was a little confused. He was a straightforward person and was not good at dealing with people. Especially Hitaki Kusuo. Although they had a connection, they were still unfamiliar with each other. However, the Konoha ninjas behind him were completely shocked by the scene in front of them. At this moment, the huge stone pillars 100 meters ahead collapsed, and a large number of broken earth walls also shattered. More corpses were exposed on the ground. 8 diagram palm. Turn the sky back. Ningji used the turn the sky back technique to clear all the ruins in an instant. Crash. Blood like a sea of blood gushed out from the ground like a fountain. It flowed on the ground, dyeing the entire space under his feet red. In the air, there was an extremely strong smell of blood. This. What kind of monster can quickly eliminate all the Iwagakure coalition forces in just a few minutes? Yes. I never thought how terrifying Lord Kusuo's sword is. Alas. The battle was so loud that I didn't dare to get close. If I had been braver, I might have been the first person to witness Lord Kusuo's heroic killing of the enemy. The Konoha ninjas were dumbfounded and shocked. One person, one sword, destroyed the Iwagakure army that was about to force them into a desperate situation a few minutes ago. Such a strong contrast between the results before and after, it's like heaven and earth. All this, just because a one person changed. So, we are not in the same league, right? Someone sighed and helplessly dropped his weapon, his eyes dazed. Kai looked at the mental state of his subordinates and wanted to shout to refresh himself. Then suddenly found out. Even he himself seemed to be overwhelmed by the brutal and violent power of Hitaki Kusuo. There was no way to say any nutritious words of encouragement. Looking back, Tenten, Neji, and Lee were also dejected and in a very low mood. I saw it with my own eyes. But there was a strong contrast. Iwagakure village. In the Tsuchikage office building. Unoki was still patiently instructing his granddaughter Kuritsuchi. Recently, he discovered that his granddaughter had a unique understanding of hydraulic earth techniques, and he was very happy. Moreover, because they were using the power of the entire country to fight against Konoha, whose military strength was seriously dispersed. They also received victory reports on the battlefield one after another. Except that the team led by his student Akaji was missing and was very likely to be killed on the battlefield. Basically, Konoha was crushed everywhere. Think about it. Konoha, which was under pressure from the 3 major countries, had to face the strong pressure of the Akatsuki organization. It was good enough to be able to resist barely, how could there be any spare strength to resist? So, Onoki had even planned to wait until the war was won for Akatsuki's death. Use the blood of the genius Kusuo Hitaki to pay for it. Suddenly, a hurried figure rushed in, knelt on one knee with a panicked look and said, No, it's bad, Tsuchikage-sama. Something happened at the front line of our Iwagakure village. Onoki turned in midair, looking at him solemnly. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? The ninja coalition we sent out was wiped out. As soon as the words fell, the sky spun and the earth spun. Onoki fainted and fell to the ground. Grandpa. Kuretsuchi called out and immediately went forward to help him up. After a long time, Onoki woke up dizzy. Then, his eyes flashed, and he immediately grabbed the sleeve of the intelligence ninja and asked, "Is the news you just said true?" The ninja swallowed. Absolutely true. Our perception ninja said that there are all the remaining sword energy there, and our people don't even dare to get too close. It should be. Yes, it was destroyed by one person. Impossible. Onoki shouted immediately. In the current ninja world, how could anyone be able to destroy half of the elite troops of the Hidden Rock village by himself? Sword. This word suddenly echoed in his mind. A strong man with a sword. Destroyed an entire army alone. Hiss. Onoki's face suddenly darkened. He already knew who it was. He was gradually forced to accept this reality. If there is anyone else in this world who can do such a feat, it can only be the genius swordsman of Konoha. At the same time, it is also their ultimate goal of this battle, Hitaki Kusuo. Okay, I know, you go down first. Onoki waved his hand with a dejected look, motioning the ninja to go down. Then, he immediately called him back. Wait, remember not to tell anyone about this. Even if the village elders ask, you can't reveal a single word. Did you hear that? The third Tsuchikage's aura burst out from Onoki. The intelligence ninja was stunned and just murmured, "Got it." After he left, Onoki's face was uncertain. Since this has happened, the villagers and the daimyo must not know the news. Otherwise, once someone knows that the entire Iwagakure village has lost half of its elite combat power, at that time, it will definitely cause widespread panic. At that time, the enemy will take advantage of the opportunity and the consequences will be unimaginable. Chapter 137. On the other side. After Kusuo Hitaki left with Shion, he continued to clean up the small battlefields everywhere. Whenever he took action, he would use thundering means to decisively kill all enemies. Everywhere he passed, crushing with overwhelming force. Current role-playing degree, 78.99%. Hitaki Kusuo looked at his panel, and the system's role-playing degree was increasing more and more slowly. I still remember that when I just found out that killing enemies could gain role-playing degree, 2 mere chunins could increase my role-playing degree by about %. Now, I killed hundreds of chunins from the Hidden Rock village at will, and the total increase was only about 1%. But it is understandable. Even in the previous life's game, the experience points increased very slowly after brushing the map. According to this progress, if I want to brush up the role-playing degree and graduate, I guess I will need a lot of monsters. As for who these monsters are, Hitaki Kusuo already had an idea in his mind. To be honest, if the 3 major countries did not take the initiative to initiate a war, he really couldn't do anything about the shadows hiding in the village. Now, another thing. It is about the mystery of the combination of breathing method and chakra. Through the training of breathing method, Hitaki Kusuo's body is stronger than all the shadows. So much so, he was sure that once he successfully unlocked 100% of the Jigoku Yoshichi template, the state of opening the pattern would be no worse than that of Kai who opened the 8 gates, or even better. However, if he did not complete the bloodline network, he would not be able to achieve immortality. Under the network, even if it was the 6 paths, the final result would be death, leaving only the huge and pure chakra to be passed down through the ages. Lucky. It can make the spirit body live forever, silently watching everything in the ninja world. But once the spirit body is separated from the body, it cannot be nourished and each use represents a consumption. So, if Hitaki Kusuo wants to achieve immortality, he must advance to the bloodline network. And to advance to the bloodline network, a huge amount of chakra is indispensable. The breathing method is indeed powerful, so powerful that he can kill all enemies in the world with a sword. But at the same time, the disadvantage is that he rarely stores chakra. Every time he breathes into the body, the chakra is decomposed by Hitaki Kusuo's cells and turned into pure energy that travels throughout the body. A cage-level chakra is a reward from the system. Speaking out. It might shock the whole ninja world. A person, who has almost no chakra refining practice, has a cage-level chakra. Although Kusuo Hitaki has never used it. Every time his sword energy is slashed, there is no trace of chakra fluctuation. But the acquisition of a huge amount of chakra is still a goal that cannot be ignored. Myoboku Mountain, Wet Bone Forest, Ryachi Cave. Kunsuo, what are you talking about? Shion was close to him and heard the whisper from Kusuo Hitaki. Nothing, thinking about something. Kusuo Hitaki smiled and said. Shion opened her eyes wide and asked Kusuo Hitaki curiously. What's the matter? Can you tell me? Seeing the girl like this, and this was not something worth keeping secret, Kusuo Hitaki told her what he had just thought. A lot of chakra or energy is needed. Shion was confused. I don't understand why Kusuo Hitaki needs these. In her opinion, the breathing secret technique that Kusuo taught them was already very powerful. But if Kusuo needs chakra, I might be able to help. Shion's words surprised Kusuo Hitaki a little. What do you mean? Have you forgotten? I have all the chakra of Wuliang in my body. It is born with the negative emotions of all things in the world. As long as there are negative emotions such as killing, deception, betrayal, greed, etc. in the world, Wuliang will be immortal. So, I can give you all the chakra of Wuliang, and wait for the next node to revive it again. It's just that by that time it has given birth to a new spiritual wisdom, and we need to recover it again. Negative emotions. Energy. All of a sudden. Hitaki Kusuo seemed to have a sudden enlightenment, and instantly associated with many things. I originally just planned to learn some methods of absorbing fairy chakra through the 3 major fairy lands. Use it as one of the backup chakra sources. Now think about it. I really treat the golden bowl as a rice bowl, and lose sight of the main thing. At the beginning. How did the first ray of chakra in the ninja world come from? After the sacred tree was planted, it produced chakra fruits, and then Kagaya ate it, and from then on the whole ninja world had chakra. So, where does the energy of the sacred tree come from? It is the energy absorbed from nature, which is the condensation of fairy chakra. There may be a difference between the two. But there is no doubt that natural energy is the source of chakra. Besides, the natural energy contained in the whole world is endless, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is inexhaustible. Just imagine. The fairy talisman that the toad sage gave to the 6 paths feather robe. It can raise his brother Hamura to the 6 paths level. You can imagine how terrible the upper limit of natural energy is. Thank you, Shion. Thinking about it now, Hitaki Kusuo was a little excited and smiled and thanked Shion. You are welcome. Shion shyly buried her head, very happy that she could help Kusuo. Little did she know. Kusuo Hitaki was not grateful for her willingness to give up the demon chakra, but because her words completely opened up his mind. Immediately. He wanted to use the breathing method to try to absorb natural energy. Seeing Kusuo Hitaki sitting cross-legged, Shion left first and summoned more terracotta warriors to surround his former country, the land of demons. Buzz. Strands of blue energy fluctuated. Attracted by a human-shaped vortex, it flowed into Kusuo Hitaki's nasal cavity. Gradually. The surging and vast chakra fluctuations swept everything, and the huge energy even tore Kusuo Hitaki's red shirt. This was also the first time that Kusuo Hitaki's clothes were damaged. It didn't take long. Kusuo Hitaki immediately felt that his body seemed a little stiff, and there was a tendency to petrify. Immediately. He immediately stopped absorbing natural energy, meditated temporarily, and sensed it. Who tilde. A rhythmic breathing sound of one long and one short hello, King Jiao sounded. In the distance, the color of the pattern on Kusuo Hitaki's forehead seemed to be a little deeper. Just when he was fully immersed in meditation, a female hero's voice interrupted him. Smelly boy. Is it you? With a unique name, people can immediately guess who the visitor is. Lady Tsunade, why are you here on the battlefield? Kusuo Hitaki opened his eyes and was about to say hello, but found that Tsunade's eyes were staring at his upper body without blinking. Looking down, he found that his red clothes were torn by natural energy. Have you seen enough, Lady Tsunade? Kusuo Hitaki was not panicked at all, and he did not realize that he was seen naked by the strange vision. Anyway, I have seen your body, and my upper body is a tie for you. Hearing Kusuo Hitaki's calm tone, Tsunade's eyes twitched. This brat specially brought up that matter. If he hadn't said it, I would have forgotten it. Chapter 138. Tsunade was angrily holding her hands on her waist. The scene was eye-catching. This kid, his face was so calm, no matter how you looked at it, he looked like we were even. Good fellow. You look at me and I look at you. Can this matter be the same? HMPH. I won't talk about this with you. Tsunade snorted, and then her face became serious. By the way, I came here this time to tell you something important. The Tsuchikage Onoki of Iwagakure village has been dispatched. Our lurking ninja sensed the news and immediately passed it back. Onoki has been dispatched. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes lit up. No wonder even Tsunade rushed over from the village. The previous first, second and third battles almost all had unwritten rules. Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. Only the shadow can deal with the shadow. Therefore the classic battles of the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze all took place before his successor. Before becoming Hokage, the chosen Hokage didn't have many opportunities to show up. Got it. Hitaki Kusuo said lightly. Anyway, he was eager for the Tsuchikage to come, so that he wouldn't have to go to Iwagakure to destroy the village again. Don't underestimate that old man. I tell you, the third Tsuchikage Onoki is different from other Kages. He has the chakra changes of wind, fire, and earth attributes, and has mastered the bloodline elimination above the bloodline limit. The strength should not be underestimated. Tsunade gritted her teeth and said seriously. Although there is no explicit explanation, each village has tacitly regarded him as the strongest Kage at present. The third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen's self-promotion is not counted. Onoki's dust release is superb, and anyone who touches it will die. In the original work, the second pillar who just got Susanoo thought he had the power of the Kage level, and went to the 5 Kage talks foolishly. Result. He was killed instantly. If Obito hadn't used Kamui to teleport him into the Kamui space in time, he would have become a molecule and merged into the embrace of nature. So what? Do we have any way out? No matter who comes, I can kill him with one sword. Hitaki Kusuo calmly looked at Tsunade and said this, which made the latter stunned. Tsunade looked at Hitaki Kusuo deeply, and her face blushed again when he looked at her like this. Okay. Your words are enough. If the enemy comes, the general will stop it, and if the water comes, the earth will cover it. If the old man Onoki dares to come, I will kill him with one punch. Arrogant, sighed Leek. If you ignore the redness on Tsunade's face, these words are quite heroic of a female Hokage. I know. Hitaki Kusuo smiled lightly and waved his hand. He doesn't need anyone to protect him. Tsunade's speech is very touching. But I'm sorry. Hitaki Kusuo said I don't need it. On the contrary. He even wanted to know whether the third Tsuchikage Onoki's dust release could decompose his sword energy. You know. Although his sword energy has various attribute changes, there is not a trace of chakra fluctuation. In this way, can dust release still work? The collision of sword energy and dust release. What will be the result? Hitaki Kusuo's heart was burning. He was looking forward to it. Demon Country. A location close to the border of the Land of Earth. Because of Hitaki Kusuo's support from all directions, he swept across several large battlefields and wiped out all the troops sent by Iwagakure. Now, the entire battle line was compressed back to the border of the Land of Earth. The invading party was beaten back to the territory of their own country, which was laughable. But at the same time, because they were far away from the territory of the demon country, the terracotta warriors were useless. Iwagakure lost half of its combat power, but Konoha could send less than one-third. Konoha's ninja. Still fighting with the ninjas of the Hidden Rock Village. The dry land of the Land of Earth was howling with strong winds, and the hard stones on the ground were covered with blood. Limbs, ninja tools, blood, fallen flags constitute the main theme here now. The leader sent by the Hidden Rock Village was none other than Huang Tu, the son of the Tsuchikage. He has been influenced by the teachings of his father, the Tsuchikage, since he was a child. Although he did not inherit his father's bloody elimination of the dust release, his strength is not weak, and he may have already entered the level of Kage. Perhaps. He may be at a disadvantage in the face of the old Kage. But there is no doubt about his strong strength. And Kai led the remaining troops of Konoha to face him from a distance, and neither of them took the initiative to attack. He had opened the 8 gates of ninjutsu many times in a day before, and the pain in his body had long been unbearable. But everything was hidden well by Kai. Kai's face is always full of heartless laughter, and his mouth is always full of youth and struggle. But when he wants to implement the will of fire, no one can stop him. Ninki has also grown rapidly in the war of more than a month, and is now calmly analyzing the situation on the battlefield. Teacher Kai, our number, overall strength, and high-end combat power are far inferior to the opponent. If we continue to fight, it is very likely that the losses will be increased. Kai listened to Ningqi's words and nodded heavily. He knew that Ningqi was right. But there was no way. They had already learned the news that the third-generation Tsuchikage Onoki had been dispatched, and now they didn't know where they were. Once they retreated, the territory of the demon country that had just been recaptured would be immediately beaten back. It would not be so easy to recapture it at that time. Without the buffer of the territory of the demon country, the battle on the homeland of the fire country would inevitably greatly damage the vitality of Konoha. The Hidden Rock Village sent no less than 20 Jonins, and the number of Chunins was still several hundred. Konoha gathered all the scattered combat forces, including Red Bean, Hayate and other special Jonins. There were more than a dozen. Ninki, Tiantian, and Shaoli can also entangle 1 or 2 Jonin. Combat power. It's still not enough. Yellow Earth stood quietly behind his own army, looking at the direction of Konoha with cold eyes and murderous intent. In this situation, Kai and other Konoha ninjas have certainly caused huge losses to their Iwagakure village. However, what really made him hate? It was still the boy with the sword. Hitaki Kusuo. He killed his classmate Akaji. Killed his uncle Danoshio. A blood feud. Yellow Earth wanted to tear the enemy apart and take revenge. Therefore, he just stood there calmly, giving people an extremely oppressive and bloody feeling. The breath was very heavy. Some genin and chunin of Konoha didn't even dare to look at him, and lowered their heads across the entire battlefield. Where is Kusuo now? After a moment of staring at each other, Kai turned his attention away from Yellow Earth on the opposite side and asked Neji in a low voice. They had received the news that Hitaki Kusuo was still active in the battlefield of the demon country. Tsunade-sama even came in person. It seemed that all he had to do was wait and he would be able to win. But Kai knew in his heart. The current situation was that the strongest and most experienced third Tsuchikage in the other side of the Hidden Rock Village had not appeared. The blood inheritance elimination with 3 attributes fused together was unique in the entire ninja world. Be careful. You must be extremely careful. The strength of the third Tsuchikage was too much to restrain Tsunade-sama's super-powerful steel fist. One-handed dust release. It can completely suppress her and make her dare not get close. Only Hitaki Kusuo. They are the only hope for Konoha. Chapter 139. Are you scared by our beating? Hehe, it's too late to retreat now. On the battlefield, Konoha was fighting and retreating, and there were already signs of retreat. It seemed. They didn't want to continue to entangle. Seeing this scene, Huang Tu's eyes were a little cold, and he was not surprised by the opponent's retreat. Instead, he sneered. Huang Tu wanted that man to die. However, After fighting for almost 2 days and 3 nights, there was no sight of the Konoha Shura, as if he had disappeared on the battlefield. At present, in terms of overall combat power, the Hidden Rock Village is in an absolute advantage. In terms of both quantity and high-end combat power, there was a continuous flow of troops coming later. Both sides were stationed at the border of the Land of Earth, and the number of troops almost exceeded 1,000. But this was not enough. Once upon a time, their Iwagakure village even had a ninja force of 10,000 people, although they were all genin level. They were genin who were forced to graduate from the ninja school under the state of war. But there is no doubt. The Land of Earth has the largest number of ninjas. Push forward in full force, charge forward. Huang Tu gave an order, saw the exhaustion of Konoha, and directly ordered the entire army to press forward. Suddenly. Tap 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 tilde. The crowd of people slowly advanced. A huge shadow covered half of the battlefield. All kinds of stone men were summoned to block the front, and even if the Konoha ninja wanted to interfere, it would be useless. Watch it. This is the power of our Iwagakure village. The Anbu surprise attack force has not arrived yet. When the teacher brings them here, you will know what true despair is. Anbu surprise attack force. Or it can be called a special assassination unit, or Anbu for short. No matter which village is Anbu, the people inside are all powerful talents. Of course. Except Kurigakure. Because Danzo had divided up a lot of good seedlings from Konoha before, the total number of Anbu personnel was barely over 100. But without exception, they were all elite Chunin or above. Even. Some people have the level of elite Jonin. In terms of quality, Konoha deserves to be the first. But in terms of quantity, Iwagakure has never been afraid of anyone in this regard. The Iwagakure Anbu Surprise Attack Unit, whose number is no less than that of ordinary ninjas, is like a fish in water. They are the war machines that come and go like the wind and kill ruthlessly on the battlefield. Earth Escape. Iwagakure's technique. Following closely behind the Iwagakure army, dozens of elites formed seals with their hands and slapped the ground, and the whole person seemed to melt and dive into the earth. Merge with mud and rocks. Earth Escape. Earth Flow River. Earth Escape. Yellow Spring Swamp. A few dozen Jonins formed seals together. After adding Yellow Spring Swamp, the stickiness of the Earth Flow River became even more amazing. Once someone accidentally stepped into it, they would be unable to struggle and gradually watch their body being submerged in it. Bang! Dozens of thick clay saliva sprayed from their mouths, then covered the ground, and quickly expanded into a river of mud. What should I do? My foot is stuck, save me. Me too, go and notify the captain. The Konoha side had no time to react and was swallowed by the rapidly expanding swamp. Their bodies fell down little by little and they could not struggle. Seeing this scene, Kai immediately called on Neji and Tiantian to come to support. A large number of fire escape ninjutsu troops rushed to help. Fire escape. Great flame ball technique. Huge fireballs hit the wet and muddy mudflats, drying up the water in them, and then drying up into dry mud and rocks. He had just avoided the crisis by taking extremely risky measures. But he didn't come back to his senses. The next second, dozens of ninjas emerged from the ground like ghostly soldiers and rushed into the camp of Konoha at lightning speed. Instantly, the entire defense line was completely torn apart, and the battlefield was in ruins. Why hasn't Kusuo come back yet? Kai was so anxious when he saw this scene that he could no longer care about the pain in his body. He activated the 8 gates of Dunjia, which he had activated countless times. He was glowing with blue light. Arrows hit the battlefield. Tuhei, Turun, Tumao, come with me. Wangtu had been waiting for Kai to enter the battlefield. When he saw Kai move, he immediately said to the 3 elite Jonins beside him. Yes, sir. Boom. The earth was cracked by the battle of thousands of ninjas. Soil, rocks, flames and lightning flew everywhere. Rampant chakra surged violently on the battlefield, and all kinds of strange and conventional ninjutsu were smashed towards the opposite side at once, and the scene was spectacular. The sky lost its color for a short time. Thunderclouds rolled, and lightning was caused by fire and high temperature. 0 Please give flowers. But the battlefield was not in a tense posture, but rather had a one-sided posture. The more the war. The more excited the Iwagakure ninjas were, the more Konoha ninjas died. Nobita. Sunio. 2 Chunins from Konoha coughed up blood and fell down with a sharp earth-flowing spear stuck in their chests. The shouts between them seemed to become a tragic prelude, opening the most brutal battle since the Fourth War. Kai's eyes turned white, and his dynamic vision was frighteningly sharp under the Jingmun. A fist hit Wangtu's head. Wangtu said nothing, but he summoned a rock giant calmly, more than 20 meters high. A fist hit Kai and a huge pit exploded on the spot. Day Tiger. Kai did not hesitate. Seeing the opponent release a big move, he also performed the super high-level physical technique unique to the 7 Jingmun. Roar. A roar of a white tiger suddenly exploded in front of Wangtu. Boom. The earth began to shake. Wangtu's cold eyes were also solemn, and he waved his right hand. Swoosh. Dozens of Tuliu sharp spears came at once, with an explosive breath trying to pierce Kai's body. Kai jumped back casually and hid behind. He was not afraid at all under the 7 gates of Jingmun, but the frequent openings in the past few days caused great trouble to his body. Kai didn't know how long he could hold on. And, in his peripheral vision, Kai found that the ninjas of his own Konoha were almost unilaterally crushed, beaten back step by step. And had no power to fight back. Situation. It has reached a desperate situation. Konoha, danger. As if sensing the crisis here, or the surprise that was originally expected, a shocking sword light slashed across the sky and cut across the earth. Directly slashed at the back row of ninjas in the hidden rock village. With one knife. Dozens of people had no time to dodge and died immediately. Their bodies were neatly cut open. The internal organs and blood flowed all over the ground. Great. Holding on the wall. Kai, whose body was almost at the limit, breathed heavily. His white eyes were filled with joy and relaxation. The sword came before the person. Only that little monster. Hitaki Kusuo. Finally arrived at the moment when Konoha was about to be completely defeated. She. Chapter 140. Under the sword, the whole audience was in awe. Everyone stopped their actions and stared at the sky blankly. There. A red figure fell from the sky. His arrival directly stopped all the fighting on the battlefield. Hitaki Kusuo. This is the power he shocked. This time, he was alone, without Shion and Tsunade. It was not that he was unwilling to take them with him. It was purely because his physical fitness was too strong and his speed was far faster than the two. In order to fight with the third Tsuchikage Onoki earlier, Hitaki Kusuo temporarily left them behind and rushed to the battlefield in advance. However, what he didn't expect was that the Iwagakure village, which had already killed countless armies, actually still had so many manpower. The battlefield almost dominated the Konoha side. Except for a few unlucky ones, the ground was full of Konoha ninja corpses. It was extremely tragic. If Hitaki Kusuo hadn't come, the consequences can be imagined. The Iwagakure village can almost be said to have a sure victory, and all this is just a matter of time. It seems that the Iwagakure village is determined to swallow Konoha in one breath here this time. Hitaki Kusuo glanced at the battlefield indifferently. That guy Kai is really unlucky. He is good at physical skills, but he is deliberately targeted by the Iwagakure. He is too limited. Now he is surrounded by several people and can't get away. Then, he stepped into the battlefield with a sword. He walked towards the direction of the Iwagakure village ninja with his eyes level. Every step was like stepping on the sky drum, hitting everyone's heart heavily. Dong dong dong. Step by step. Like the approaching footsteps of the god of death. The murderous aura that had killed thousands of ninjas was fully unleashed by Kusuo Hitaki at this moment, and he instantly rushed towards the Iwagakure. Soaring into the sky. Sweeping. Without reservation. Suddenly. Countless Iwagakure ninjas. Even the Jonin level felt as if they were in an ice cellar, and shuddered all over. They stared at Kusuo Hitaki's slow steps in horror, with expressions of great fear on their faces. Finally. Kusuo Hataki's footsteps quickened, and he flashed into the center of the Iwagakure ninja army in an instant. Lord Kusuo. Our Konoha's hero is here. Great. Lord Kusuo has arrived. Brothers, it's time to blow the horn of counterattack. In stark contrast to Iwagakure, the ninjas on the Konoha side became excited when they saw Kusuo Hataki joining them. The ambition that had been killed was rekindled. Even though they were still far inferior to the opponent in terms of numbers and strength, they were confident in saying they would counterattack. In this sentence, no one on both sides of the enemy heard any objection. As if it was natural. Kusuo Hataki alone could turn around a losing battle. This is the power of his reputation. It was even more shocking than the yellow flash at the beginning. It's over. That man is here. He's not a human. He's clearly the god of death. I felt a strong murderous aura on him, and my feet are out of control. On the Iwagakure side, there was a panic. Onoki ordered not to reveal the news to the villagers, but the news still spread among the ninjas irreversibly. Therefore, they all knew that half of their companions had died, all because of whom? Hataki Kusuo. In their hearts, he has become the representative of the god of death. As long as he appears, there will be a bloody storm. Ah! Brothers, don't be afraid, he is only one person, we have thousands of troops, how can we be afraid of a mere kid? Not everyone was completely frightened by the fierce reputation and momentum of Hataki Kusuo. One of the Jonin bravely stood up and cheered for all the Iwagakure ninjas behind him. After his words, everyone seemed to react. Yes. We have thousands of people. There are even a steady stream of reinforcements coming. He is only one person, how strong can he be? Will he kill all of us? With such thoughts in mind, their faces glowed with ferocity again. A green cruel look flashed in their eyes. Earth escape. Earth prison. Buzz. A huge earth prison rose from the ground, locking Kusuo Hataki's body inside. It has to be said. The biggest advantage of the Hidden Rock Village is its large population. They are also very good at using this advantage, relying on the power of combined attack ninjutsu. This earth prison, which could only hold one person, is actually several hundred square meters in size. The thickness and height are even more incomparable. As a result, Kusuo Hataki was sealed inside, without light or air. Sooner or later, he will be suffocated to death. Sealing squad. Hurry! Seeing this, the Hidden Rock Village Jonin turned his head and shouted to his teammates behind him without leaving the ground. 0. Immediately, a pair of special ninjas rushed out of the crowd. They were holding scrolls, and they were the sealing squad. As long as the sealing ninjutsu can be successfully performed, then Kusuo Hataki will be completely sealed up. Become a fish on a sticky board, at the mercy of others. What a pity. Just when they were excited and wanted to perform the technique. A throat was cleared slowly. Too crisp. Buzz. The sword body trembled lightly and hummed. Then, a ray of blue light that pierced the sky broke through the sky and cut the entire sky. Boom. The red figure shot up. The huge earth prison that originally controlled him was instantly cut open. In the air, Kusuo Hataki casually swung the sword again. The red sword energy slammed into the oval prison that was upside down on the ground, and the earth prison instantly turned into debris and collapsed. This. Is it fake? How could there be such an exaggerated sword energy? The ninjas of the Hidden Rock Village were dumbfounded. The cage-level slash that had always been mentioned repeatedly in rumors and battle reports. Today, finally it was performed in front of them. If the sword energy that cut through the sky and the sky slashed on them. Hiss. Just imagining it made me shudder. Bang. Hataki Kusuo slashed downward, and the sword body suddenly turned golden, wrapped with lightning arcs. Half of the battlefield with him as the center. The thunder descended, and spider web-like cracks were stepped on, spreading all the way to the feet of the Iwagakure camp. The earth shook. Almost everyone almost lost their balance. One sword almost shattered the mountain. Even the aftermath could make people's feet numb. Is Kusuo-sama's strength so strong? He seems to be stronger than Hokage-sama, right? Gurgle. Tsunade-sama has long said that Kusuo-sama's strength is above hers, but this level is too exaggerated. Fortunately, he is from our Konoha side. If he were an enemy, I don't know if I would have the courage to hold the weapon. It's too scary. It's not just Iwagakure. This sword. The people of Konoha were also stunned. Chapter 141. Hitaki Kusuo rushed to the scene and attacked strongly, cutting open the Doroku Domu released by 100 ninjas with one sword. Then, a sword flattened the mountain. The whole process took less than a few minutes. The morale of the Iwagakure village was now completely crushed, and many ninjas watched this scene with dejected. The Konoha side was full of fighting spirit and enthusiasm. The previous depression of being crushed was swept away, and everyone gritted their teeth and stared at the opposite side with blazing eyes. You know. Just now, the Hidden Rock village killed a large number of their teammates. The anger and tragic feeling of their companions dying beside them were aroused at the same time. Damn it! The three brothers Wangtu and Tarun joined forces, but were also suppressed by Kai, who suddenly burned with fighting spirit. He glanced at the situation on the main battlefield with his peripheral vision, and couldn't help but spit and curse. This kid is too weird. Immediately, the four of them wanted to split up and rush to the main battlefield. It's a pity. Kai on the opposite side grinned, showing his white teeth. If you want to get through, you have to ask me if I agree. Konoha Gangfeng. Swoosh. The strong wind kicked. A sweeping leg kicked sideways. From the mighty sound in the air, one can feel the powerful force contained in it. Seeing this, Huangtu did not dare to parry. The figure exploded and barely avoided the kick. Bang! With a loud bang, Kai kicked the head of the huge stone man summoned by Huangtu to pieces. After kicking the stone man on the opposite side, although Kai's eyes were left with only the whites due to the huge pressure of the Jingmun, a smile actually appeared on his face. Hitaki Kusuo's joining. It really relieved him of an extremely huge burden. If it was 10 minutes later. Just 10 minutes. He might have completely untied the restrictions of his body and opened the forbidden door. Use his own life to implement the will of fire. Huangtu looked at Hitaki Kusuo's sword, his eyes were clearly full of murderous intent, and a fierce light flashed. After Hitaki Kusuo intimidated the entire Iwagakure army with a sword, his eyes calmly stared ahead. They have thousands of troops, and the number is still increasing. But it's just that they are numerous. A group of Chunins and even Genins, even if they are all killed, it won't add much to the effect. But a mosquito leg is still meat no matter how small it is. The eyes were stern. The golden light flashed in Kusuo Hitaki's hand, and there was a crackling sound. Thunder breathing sixth form. Thunder and thunder. Swish. Like a violent storm, as powerful as thunder and lightning. Countless golden, red and purple lightning intertwined to form a ferocious thunder dragon. The thunder dragon descended. It let out a deafening roar. The ground jumped up like a dragon. Zitsa. Under Kusuo Hitaki's sword, he suddenly killed the entire crowd of Iwagakure army. Fake. Fake, right. Monster, this is a monster, how can anyone swing such a sword? Help. Lord Wangtu, save me. The Hidden Rock village seemed to see the gods who controlled lightning descending to the earth, and the hands swinging the swords were swinging at a high frequency. They couldn't see the movements clearly at all, they only saw the sky full of lightning snakes surging, descending on their heads with the power of destruction. Zizi. Puchi Puchi tilde. A red robe flashed by in an instant. The next second, Hitaki Kusuo had already appeared in the heart of the battlefield, wielding a sword wrapped in lightning, swinging it up and down, slashing left and right. Each sword. It contained the sword marks of the Great Way. Years of consistent sword-swinging practice. Hitaki Kusuo had already turned sword dancing into his body's instinct. The movements were simple and natural. The battlefield was full of blood, limbs flying up and down, blood spurting everywhere, and screams of agony. At this moment, Hitaki Kusuo seemed to have turned into the god of death. The sword in his hand turned into the scythe of the god of death, madly harvesting lives on the battlefield. Puff, puff. The flash of swords and shadows were like frost and lightning. With the swiftness of a gust of wind and lightning and the momentum of a ghost, he fought in and out of the Iwagakure army. No matter whether it was an elite Chunin or a Jonin, they could not resist the power of Hitaki Kusuo's sword. Slash. The terrible slash. Countless lightning-like sword energy slashed on the fragile human body, just as smooth as cutting tofu. A ruthless life harvester, nothing more than this. Killing indiscriminately. No need to suppress it deliberately, it was vented without scruples. Just like a king stepping down from his throne, punishing the rebellious crawling at his feet with the king's sword, the Sand Village ninjas were frightened by the momentum of Hitaki Kusuo, and stood there in a daze, dumbfounded. The fifth form of water breathing, Qiantiancu, was no longer needed. They were still standing there motionless and being beheaded. Suddenly. An inexplicable sense of crisis. Suddenly, Hitaki Kusuo's heart rose. A heavy and restrained breath appeared in his mind at the right time. Danger. Extremely dangerous. Hitaki Kusuo had never felt this kind of palpitation since he stabbed Gaara with a knife. It was as if he might die if he was careless again. Could it be? A name that basically had no other choice appeared in his mind. At this time. Earth escape. Earth flow strange wrist technique. Countless rock wrists suddenly rose from the ground. Grabbed from the 8 directions of southeast, northwest, and corners at the same time. The figures in front of him dispersed and automatically made way. 2 elite Jonin-level captains knelt on one knee, keeping their hands knotted, seal posture. 8 earth arms were performed by them. But this dangerous aura was definitely not emitted from them. It was behind them. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes changed, and he finally sensed the source of danger. The next second. A vicissitudes of life and very personal voice came out. Dust release. Original realm peeling technique. Boom. A sky-high beam of light. It shot out from behind the 2 elite Jonins, forming a conical transparent sword. Then the 2 Iwagakure Jonins flashed to the side, and a short old man floating in the air held the sky-high transparent sword and chopped it vertically towards Hitaki Kusuo. The 3rd generation Tsuchikage. Onoki. The grandson of the 1st generation Tsuchikage, Ryoutenhira Tsuchikawa, mastered the blood elimination that combined the 3 attributes of wind, fire, and earth. The power is even above the bloodline limit. Any substance touched by the transparent beam of light, no matter what it is, will be immediately decomposed into molecular objects, and everything will return to nothingness and return to the embrace of nature. Trapped in place by 8 strange arms, Kusuo Hitaki's expression became serious. This time, his opponent is the one who can really threaten his death, with the most experienced combat experience and the most tenacious fighting spirit. Such a Tsuchikage absolutely cannot be underestimated. If he relaxes a little, his whole body will turn into ashes, and not even a trace of blood can be seen. Thunder breathing type 1. Thunderbolt flash. A thick vertical lightning flashed by. Before everyone could see the afterimage, Kusuo Hitaki had already escaped from the cage of the 8 strange arms. Lightning was surging all over his body, and countless arcs were flashing. At this moment, he was holding the golden sword blade diagonally, standing with his back to the 3rd Tsuchikage Onoki. Chapter 142. A gully of 5 or 6 meters long stretched between Onoki and Kusuo Hitaki, like a straight sword slashing through, with a sharp edge that could flatten everything. Kusuo Hitaki slowly turned his back, and a straight line with an endpoint was drawn under his feet. Just now, Kusuo Hitaki casually killed the 2 elite Jonins who attacked him with the ninjutsu rock arm. But immediately afterwards, the dust escape light column soared into the sky, and he had no way to hide. Therefore, Kusuo Hitaki used the thunder calling method 1 to dodge this ultimate move. Boy of Konoha, be prepared to die. Onoki floated in the sky arrogantly, looking down at Kusuo Hitaki, with murderous intent in his eyes. This war. It doesn't matter whether Iwagakure wins or loses. Many elite Jonin, Many ordinary Jonin and the best of them, the users of fusion release, were lost. In addition, there were thousands of Chunin and Genin troops that were killed by Hitaki Kusuo in one battlefield after another. They, Iwagakure, have suffered heavy losses. It's all because of him. Hitaki Kusuo. Die. Onoki's eyes were blazing, and he gritted his teeth and shouted. He held out a square transparent block in his palms, which looked extremely exquisite. The fluctuations in it. It was enough to make any strong man's scalp numb. Dust release. Decompose everything. Boom. A hateful blow. With a momentum as powerful as a bamboo, and unparalleled danger, it was extended again into a conical sword. After seeing the third Tsuchikage's dust release, Hitaki Kusuo's eyes were still serious. But not as solemn as before. On the contrary. He even looked calm, watching the blow coming from the sky without any ripples. Thunder breathing form 3. Gather mosquitoes into thunder. Buzz. Sizzle. The roar of thunder and the crackle of electricity formed a symphony, surrounding Hitaki Kusuo's body in an arc. The black and gold lightning turned into a thunder shield. It firmly protected Hitaki Kusuo's entire body. The ground under his feet began to spiral, bringing out a lot of wet black soil. You know. This is the land of earth. The environment is not much better than the land of wind. You can imagine how strong the penetration of lightning is to be able to bring out the wet black soil deep underground. And go. Hitaki Kusuo shouted softly. The lightning on the sword rushed over with full momentum. It slammed into the transparent dust release sword. The process of thunder and lightning raging. The airwaves were distorted all at once. People looked at Kusuo Hitaki's face through the barrier of mosquitoes gathering like thunder, and even felt a sense of blur. There was no earth-shattering sound as expected. There was no earth-shattering explosion. The moment when the decomposition power of dust release and the penetration power of thunder roar clashed fiercely. It was like ice and snow melting. The transparent light column was directly fixed at a certain node, and then dissipated evenly until it turned into a light spot waving in the air. But that wave. There was also light that shot straight into the sky. It penetrated the Yuanshao completely out of control and shattered the clouds in the sky. The whole sky. It was all shrouded in daylight. It was like an eternal star that had reached the end of its life and shone at the last moment before collapsing into a black hole. It shook the whole world. At this moment. Not only Iwagakure and Konoha at both ends of the battlefield could see it. Even Tsunade, who was hurrying behind, was also shocked. What did this brat go through? How could there be such a dazzling light? Tsunade's heart began to beat violently. This was not the brat's sword light, she recognized it. Could it be? Bang! A fist suddenly hit the ground, and Tsunade punched it in dissatisfaction. Whoosh! The whole person's speed became faster. The white light finally dissipated. It turned into the starlight of the day, dotted in the sky. The electric snake on Kusuo Hitaki dissipated, and only the golden sword body still had the arc dancing. Onoki. The body was still flying in the air. But the hatred and anger on his face. All disappeared. I have lived for most of my life, and the dust escape can still resist. Offset. How is it possible? Onoki's cognition was about to collapse. Dust release was eliminated by blood stains, and was developed by his teacher, the second-generation Tsuchikage Mu. In one fell swoop, the entire Iwagakure village, which was similar to the Wind Country, was raised to its current position. Except for their weapon ninjutsu that instantly kills and decomposes the enemy. When has someone else's ninjutsu melted their own dust release? It's like a diamond drill that cuts everything, but today it is cut by other objects. This strong contrast and shock made Onoki completely speechless. As the third-generation Tsuchikage, Onoki is like this. The Iwagakure ninjas below were even more overwhelmed, and their hearts were shaking like a magnitude 9 earthquake. Dust release. The Tsuchikage's dust release. Broken by someone. Impossible. This must be an illusion. How could the third generation's dust release be cut off by a sword? I don't believe it. There were even more. There were even Iwagakure ninjas who helplessly dropped their weapons and stayed where they were, resigned to their fate. Tsuchikage. That was the Tsuchikage's dust release, cut off by Lord Kusuo with one sword. The people of Konoha also opened their eyes wide, but their faces were filled with unstoppable ecstasy. Hitaki Kusuo had already shocked them enough. But the dazzling light just now still made them feel shocked again. That was the Tsuchikage. He had been in charge of the Hidden Rock Village for decades, and eliminated the third-generation Tsuchikage Onoki who was feared by the entire ninja world with his dust-release bloodline. Once upon a time. The three battles faced such a powerful existence, even with the Golden Flash, even if the strongest Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen was in his prime. He was still beaten and led his army into the interior of the Land of Fire, killing a large number of Konoha compatriots. Now, Lord Kusuo actually cut off the Tsuchikage's dust release with just one sword, Jiao Jiao's. What kind of power is this? Others don't know. The ninjas of Konoha know it very well. The sword energy of Lord Kusuo can be swung countless times. At least now, no one can make him exhausted. Gradually, both sides stared at a figure in the air and a figure on the ground, forgetting to breathe. Deeply afraid that their careless movements would disturb the collision between the two peak-strong men in the world. Onoki has lived a long life, and the shock in his heart has been hidden, at least not on the surface. He is the Tsuchikage, the pillar, and the spiritual leader. I can't fall. At the same time, a deep fear covered his wrinkled face. This kid from Konoha is too perverted. He must not be left alive. No matter what the result of this battle is, he must join forces with the Mizukage and the Raikage to attack. Even if he is laughed at by the whole ninja world. He must completely kill this kid. Chapter 143. Dust Release. Limit Stripping Technique. Onoki shouted in the air, his face seemed to be unaffected by the defeat just now. A larger scale. The light body with a faster expansion speed expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it covered half of the sky in Onoki's palm. Limit Peeling Technique. An advanced version of original peeling. Not only the power, range and speed, but also more exaggerated and dangerous. It can directly turn all the matter it touches into atomic form. It is abnormal. In the original work, Onoki even used this trick to directly flatten the Flower Tree World Advent comparable to the first generation summoned by the impure world Madara, and killed his 25 Susanoo clones in one fell swoop. The power is so terrifying, it can be seen. Buzz. Powerful. Amazing. The dazzling light body swept across the sky and burst out. Along the way, any corpses on the ground were all decomposed completely. There was no trace of their existence. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes were like torches, and he had no intention of giving in. Swish. Swish out. A sword. It was still such a casual sword. Still with thunder and lightning and shining light. Since the lightning breathing technique has been confirmed to be able to resist the decomposition power of dust release. There is no need for Kusuo Hitaki to add burden to himself. Frequently changing the breathing style in the body is very physically demanding. Roar. The thunder dragon roars. With rolling power. The fierce slash hits the light body of the arrogant limit peeling technique. Puff. It's like the melting of spring snow again. The whole land is shaking, and a cloud of dust is raised by the collision of the two. The smoke is everywhere, thick smoke billowed. All of a sudden. It blocked everyone's sight. When everything calmed down and the smoke cleared. A cenote-like an abyss appeared on the spot, with a deep and terrifying darkness. Standing on the ground and looking down, you would feel your soul being absorbed. The Iwagakure side stared at the center of the battlefield in disbelief. Again. Failed. The huge cenote in the middle was like the arm of a god or demon, leaving such a shocking mark on the ground with supreme power. So. Is the Tsuchikage-sama's dust release weak? Will it be able to break everything until today if it is weak? Will it cause such a cenote-like an abyss in front of us? Not weak. But this just shows. Hitaki Kusuo's sword is stronger. So strong that I can cut it down with one sword, no matter how proud and confident I am. Somehow. They looked at the red-clothed figure of Hitaki Kusuo standing still on the opposite side, and this thought came to their mind for no reason. Why would such a monster be their enemy? The heart of the rock ninja was filled with bitterness. Konoha. There are always geniuses. From the former Uchiha Itachi and Shisui, Konoha White Fang and Yellow Flash, Kakashi to the current Hitaki Kusuo. Each one is more perverted than the other. The man in front of him, just perverted is not enough to describe his strength. The power of dust release is like an eraser to wipe out half of the earth, but it actually collapsed under his sword. It's incredible no matter how you think about it. Unoki's eyes flickered. At this moment, he finally confirmed. The sword energy possessed by the kid from Konoha opposite is definitely at the level of bloodline elimination. Otherwise, it is impossible to offset or even devour his dust release light body. The only one who can crack the bloodline elimination is the existence of the same bloodline elimination. Even if it is the strongest eye technique of the Uchiha clan, Susanoo, as a bloodline limit technique, it can only be reduced to ashes by his dust release. At this moment, Hitaki Kusuo didn't know what Onoki was thinking. Otherwise, he would say that bloodline elimination was nothing. His sword energy clearly didn't carry the slightest chakra fluctuation, how could it be related to ninjutsu? Looking at the entire ninja world, he didn't know if he could break the Six Paths level seeking truth ball with one sword. All other things were no match for him. Only the bloodline network above the Six Paths, which controlled the power of the fusion of wind, fire, water, earth, thunder, and yin-yang escape techniques, could arouse the interest of Hitaki Kusuo. Far away. Tsunade, who kept running on the rocks, ignored the jumping in front of her and rushed over with all her might. When she saw the light flashing again in the sky, the familiar thunder dragon made her eyes light up. This was the sword energy of the brat. At the beginning, when they first met, the brat used this kind of sword energy too. The brat was safe and sound. And, from the fluctuations in the sky, it can be felt that Kusuo Hitaki actually has the upper hand. Such a surprising discovery made Tsunade's face burst into laughter. This brat has never disappointed us in terms of surprises. Seeing that the battle fluctuations were not far away, Tsunade accelerated again. Finally, she arrived at the scene. Princess Tsunade. Hokage-sama. It was Hokage-sama who felt it. Oh. I know. That's Hokage-sama. What's wrong with you? Hasn't there been intelligence that Hokage-sama is coming here? You are so surprised. Do you have any qualities of a Konoha ninja? It's so shameful. A group of Konoha ninjas looked at the teammates who were excited to see Tsunade coming with disdain. Then, those few suddenly stood there. Yes. Kusuo-sama is already standing on the battlefield. Why are we still waiting for Hokage-sama? Lord Kusuo is so powerful, why don't Lord Hokage stand behind us and cheer us on? Thinking of this, they suddenly realized and immediately shifted their attention away from Tsunade who had just arrived, and once again stared nervously at Hitaki Kusuo who was wearing a red robe in the front and blocking the entire opposite army. Unoki did not give up. A kind of earth will burned in his heart. Not only did his faith not waver, he was as simple and unpretentious as a stone and unyielding. It seems that there is nothing outstanding, but it is the hardest and most tenacious existence. Boom. Dust release. Limit peeling technique. Another large-scale dust release light body attack, this time the range is more than twice that of the previous one. Iwagakure below. Seeing that their Lord Tsuchikage is so powerful and still has strength, their hearts are replucked with courage. The eyes believe in their Lord Tsuchikage. Looking at the battlefield. This level of battle. They have no other way to do this. Isn't it good to just watch and be shocked at Konoha? With Onoki's move, the battle broke out again. The sword energy in the sky countered Onoki's dust release. Unlike the previous times, Hitaki Kusuo did not just use one sword this time. Instead, he swung his arms at high speed, and thousands of sword energies were frequently and continuously swung out. Without the open pattern state, He could not slash out thousands of breathing sword skills, but he still swung out the slash comparable to the cage level without any regard for his life. I don't know if it's an illusion. Boom. 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 The whole world was shaking, trembling, and buzzing. When the eardrums are enveloped by an extremely noisy and shocking sound, people's attention will only be focused on the objects they can see, leaving a subtle impression. At this moment, there was only Kusuo Hatake swinging his sword all over the sky and field. As it should be. He will surely become a figure that the more than 2,000 people present will remember in their bones and engraved into their souls. Kusuo Hatake. The synonym of invincibility. Chapter 144. Stinky boy. I'll help you. Tsunade stood behind. Seeing the fierce battle on the battlefield, she shouted. She exerted force on her feet and jumped directly to Kusuo Hatake's side. At the same time, only when Tsunade really stood only 5 or 6 meters away from Kusuo Hatake could she accurately feel the terrifying sword energy in his hand. The sword energy was sharp. It seemed to tear the void. Under the slash, the wind was howling. It was very scary. Tsunade's cheeks were hurt by the wind. Just by leaning over, there was a kind of sharp sword energy that wanted to cut you into pieces. It was extremely sharp. This brat. He was getting stronger and stronger. Tsunade didn't pay attention and almost lost her balance. There was a strange look in her pretty eyes. Onoki kept fighting back in the sky. After seeing that Hatake Kusuo's sword energy could offset his bloodline elimination, he was experienced and didn't stupidly insist on using dust release to fight him. That would consume too much energy. Instead, he used earth release skillfully. When he used it, it was countless times more powerful than all the Iwagakure ninjas present. It really showed how powerful he was as a Tsuchikage. Earth release. Earth Dragon Bomb. Roar. The Earth Dragon turned over. A huge Earth Dragon surged out of the mud under Onoki, and the soil turned into a mudslide. Countless energy bombs as bright as day spit out from the mouth of the hideous head. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The beams were dense and powerful. One after another, they quickly hit the sword energy of Hatake Kusuo and blasted against each other. A series of explosions. The scene was filled with roars. The amazing airflow swept, and under the terrible movement, a huge amount of smoke, dust and sand and gravel came out. The Rock Ninja and Konoha Ninja who were watching the battle had no choice but to stick their short swords or kunai in the ground to prevent their bodies from being blown away by the air waves. Earth escape. Split the earth and turn the palm. The two elite Jonin under Onoki just looked at each other and understood the idea of their own Tsuchikage. They slapped the ground with both hands. Suddenly, the ground in the space of hundreds of square meters began to shatter, and the cracks continued to the feet of Hatake Kusuo. Bang! One blow. A heavy punch with 1,000-pound force suddenly hit down. The huge inertia and impact made the earth tremble. Tsunade's whole figure suddenly appeared in front of Kusuo Hatake, and punched the earth escape ninjutsu that was about to crack the ground. She raised her head and smiled. If you want to interfere with the battle of our Konoha genius, ask me, the Hokage, if I agree. Tsunade's strange strength. One punch smashed the interference of the other elite Jonin. Tisk. The two people spat with disdain. As a dignified Hokage, he actually lowered his status to cover for a teenager. This behavior is really ellipsis. It's indescribably uncomfortable. Lord Tsuchikage, we are incompetent and are no match for the Hokage. The two elite Jonin said apologetically to the sky, and the fluctuation of chakra on Tsunade's fist made people palpitate. And judging from the huge pitch she smashed, it was no less than the sword energy swung by the boy on the opposite side. They were no match. Onoki gritted his teeth and tried his best to deal with the sword energy of Hatake Kusuo. In this level of confrontation, he could not spare the time to guide the ninjas on his side. Therefore, no words. The battle became more and more intense. Facing Hatake Kusuo, Onoki used almost all the earth escape ninjutsu he had learned in his life. If it were an ordinary cage, he would have been defeated long ago. But Hatake Kusuo defeated him with one force. With just one magnificent sword energy, he crushed all of Onoki's ninjutsu efforts. Wow! A mouthful of thick blood spurted out, and Onoki was accidentally scratched by the remaining sword energy. Even though he summoned the Earth Escape armor for protection, the huge impact still made him spurt out a mouthful of old blood. Tsuchikage-sama. Sandame-sama. The Iwagakure below was terrified and asked hurriedly. Ahem. Onoki climbed up from the ground and supported himself with his hands to stand. He wanted to use the super light and heavy rock technique to fly in the air again, and another mouthful of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His eyes flickered. The current situation is actually very clear. If the fight continues like this, the Iwagakure will definitely not be a match. The kid on the opposite side can wipe out all of our side by himself. It's just a matter of time. Retreat. Suddenly. Onoki shouted at his side and flew away in the air first. This. The Iwagakure ninjas were dumbfounded. Their own Tsuchikage-sama ran away. He was beaten away by someone. What should they do then? What are you still doing? Run. Run. It will be too late if you don't run now. Run, run, run. Don't worry, just run away. In an instant, thousands of rock ninjas scrambled to retreat backwards, and the scene was spectacular, and extremely confusing. Damn it. Huang Tu, Tu Run Tu Mao and others who were originally pestering Kai were shocked. They are now being dragged down by Kai, who is refusing to allow them to support the main battlefield. Seeing the bloody and tragic appearance of his own ninjas in a mess, being cut into pieces by sword energy, his face was filled with grief and anger. You seem very unwilling. At this time, a ghostly body appeared behind them. And the boy's joking words rang out. Zero asking for flowers, you. As soon as Huang Tu turned around, he saw Hitaki Kusuo's extremely dull gaze. Looking at their eyes, it seems. There is a kind of dismissive indifference. Damn it. We are the ones in Yenian village who are infinitely close to the shadow-level combat power. Even if we encounter the shadows of other villages, we can, the fifth form of water breathing. The loving rain of the dry sky. A clearing of the throat. Interrupted their angry mental activities. Huang Tu and others found that all the negative emotions in their hearts seemed to be soothed, and their eyes calmed down. The next second, they were desperate and horrified to find a blade with splashes of water heading towards them to behead them. Phew. Phew. The sound of 4 beheadings in a row. 4 heads fell to the ground. Lois's unblinking eyes showed despair and unwillingness. Why? Why was my head cut off as soon as I met someone with my own strength? Zero, don't you even have a chance to fight with the other party. Kai can't kill you, but I can. With a shake of his arm, the water on the blade automatically washed away the blood stains on it. Hitaki Kusuo whispered, then sheathed the sword. When Shang Qianyanian escaped, he just swung a few swords randomly and killed about 100 people. The rest is left to Tsunade and the others. After all, if the strength is not enough, no matter how much you kill, it won't add much to your performance. It's different if Huang Tu and others have the strength of the human shadow level and the elite Jonin. Current role level, %. On the virtual panel in front of him, the system prompts told him that he was getting closer to the 80% mark. The rest. Just killing 1 or 2 shadows is probably enough. He glanced at the direction Onoki had just escaped from. Kusuo Hitaki is both funny and helpless. What's funny? The monk could not escape from the temple. Did Onoki think that everything would be fine if he ran back to Iwagakure? What's helpless is, the flying ninja is really buggy. The runner is really fast. I'll leave the rest of the cleaning to you. Kusuo Hitaki glanced at Kai, who frequently forced the 8 doors to open, and turned to leave. Kai held his hands and gasped for air. He had just exited the 8-door state. Watching the figure of the young man in red gradually walk away, a sigh of relief came out. I didn't expect that the talented boy we were discussing at the barbecue restaurant a few years ago has grown to this point in the blink of an eye. At first, Asuma seemed to vividly remember how elated she was showing off to them as her disciple. It only took a few years. He had already left everyone far behind. Others, it's hard to even look at it from the back of your neck. Scholar. Chapter 145. The Country of Rain. There was light rain falling in the sky. All these pictures and environments seem to constitute eternal elements here. At present, a Konoha team is guarding here, and most of them are covered in scars and dust. Snap! The lighter sounded. One of them lit a cigarette and took a puff of it happily. Lord Asuma. We have been stationed here for more than a month. The team members suffered heavy casualties, and it has been more than a week since Jiraiya-sama entered. I'm afraid. Shut up. Asuma silenced the ninja who was talking, and the smoke from his mouth sprayed on his face. Turn around. However, a flash of worry flashed across his face, but it was well covered up. Report. Lord Asuma. There is urgent news from the front line. At this time, a hurried ninja ran over holding a scroll. Any news? Did the front line fall again? Chichi-san, it's over. It's over. Hear the news. The garrison team members at the rear suddenly became weak. In the past few days, news about the Konoha ninja side retreating from the front line step by step and being beaten to pieces came one after another, which made people feel discouraged and many people were disappointed. No. It's a battle report from the Kingdom of Ghosts. Never thought about it. The ninja who came in a hurry had joy and excitement on his face, interrupting the dejected speech here. The Kingdom of Ghosts. Show it to me. Asuma's eyes flashed. Immediately. The scroll opens. Everyone gathered around and put their heads together to watch. Hiss. It says, Lord Kusuo led Shion, the former Miko of the Kingdom of Demons, to the battlefield of the Kingdom of Demons, swept across the Iwagakure village, successfully regained the territory of the Kingdom of Demons, and killed no less than 1,000 Jonin, Chunin and other coalition forces. In addition, the third Tsuchikage Onoki has been seriously injured by Lord Kusuo and fled. In the northern battlefield, Konoha. A great victory. Lord, this. When the ninjas who were just dejected saw the news, they were so excited that they couldn't speak and stuttered. Those ninjas from the Hidden Rock village were defeated. Did we see it right? Lord Kusuo is really amazing. Nonsense. It must be true. Who is Lord Kusuo? He is a genius who can chop off Shukaku with a sword and make him flee in a panic. The hope of our Konoha. But, I heard that the third Tsuchikage is very strong. He can do that, the bloodline elimination of the dust release. So what? No matter how strong the third Tsuchikage is, can he be as strong as our Hokage? Lady Tsunade has personally admitted that she is not as good as Lord Kusuo. Moreover, Lord Kusuo defeated Orochimaru. He killed the Akatsuki rebel ninjas Kisame, Deidara and Sasori in a 1-on-2 fight. I ask you, can you do it? Yes. The man slapped his head. Lord Kusuo is invincible. Lord Kusuo is awesome. And Asuma, who was still stunned when the cigarette butt in his mouth was about to burn his lips, did not realize it. This news. It's too shocking. ... Quote. Waste. All waste. Old man Onogi was the first to propose to join forces with me to deal with Konoha, but this old man is so arrogant, but he is so trash that he was beaten like this. What a waste. The land of lightning. The fourth Raikage, who received the news, angrily tore the information in his hand to pieces, and then his face was furious and furious. His strong and sturdy body is full of powerful muscles. He has practiced lightning ninjutsu for many years, so his physical skills are naturally not bad, and his whole body is full of explosive power. Lord Raikage, I think our top priority is not to blame each other, but to quickly adjust our strategy against Konoha and respond. On the side. Although the current advisor of Raikage, Jonin Samui, was surprised by the record of the monster of Konoha, he still said these words calmly. As majestic as she was, but slightly inferior in mysticism, Mabuhi also nodded hurriedly. The fourth Raikage also calmed down, breathing heavily. What should we do? We must win the battle in the Rain Country, and we can't send troops to support us. Samui still said expressionlessly. We don't need to send reinforcements to support, but analyze the actions of Konoha. They just defeated the Land of Earth, and they will surely pursue the victory and attack the Hidden Rock village. We only need to send high-end combat forces to ambush at a fixed point, and wait until the time is right to kill the leader of the other side with the force of thunder. The cold tone. But it made Raikage suddenly realize. Yes. The goal this time. It is to target the genius boy of the opponent's Hatake Kusuo, and prevent him from growing up completely. But It is definitely good news to be able to see the hidden rock village being beaten unexpectedly. They only needed to ambush people and rush forward when Hitaki Kusuo appeared in Iwagakure village. Not only could they eliminate Konoha's future worry, but they could also make Iwagakure, one of the 5 major villages, unable to recover. From then on, 2 of the 5 major countries were destroyed, so the Kumogakure village, the country of lightning, naturally took the lead. Okay. Samui, Mabuyi, you two get ready, notify Darui and others to get ready, and set off immediately. Hey! Hey! Mabuyi was stunned. Zero. Should I go too? Swoosh. A gust of wind. Reikage-I's figure had disappeared, and he moved in a hurry. He was going to tell his younger brother Killer Bee not to sneak out of the village while he was out. The 8 Tails Jinchuriki was the most important treasure of their Kumogakure village. Samui had a cold face. There was a strange flash in her majestic eyes. Hitaki Kusuo. This name has been heard countless times over the years. Now, I actually have the opportunity to witness the death of a generation of Konoha genius. This feeling, haha. The old man, the 3rd Tsuchikage, failed, and Hitaki Kusuo severely injured him. In the dark Akatsuki base. The other members are on the battlefield, and now there are only Pain, Tendo and Konan. When Konan heard Nagato's words, her eyebrows furrowed, with an indescribable solemnity and shock that was difficult to conceal on her face. He has grown too fast. I have never seen such a monster. I am worried that our final plan will change and we are not that person's opponent. Tendu's rippled eyes were as silent as death. It doesn't matter. If necessary, I will do it myself. Konan nodded. If Nagato takes action personally. Pain's 6 paths are indeed invincible. After thinking for a while, Xiaonan said. By the way, Madara has been unusually active recently, and Itachi's body seems to be no longer so weak. I suspect that he shared Hashirama's cells with Itachi. Nagato, if your body can. Enough. Pain Tiandao said in a low voice. His tone was a little excited. It's impossible for me to cooperate with that guy, Uchiha Madara. He is just a clown who wears someone else's name. Do you really think I don't know the truth? But your body. There was unspeakable worry in Konan's light orange eyes. Yes. Nagato had been supporting the Outer Path statue with his own strength, and now his body was almost unable to hold on. If he had Madara's Hashirama cells. In that case, Nagato would relieve the pressure. Not only would his body recover as before, but even his eyes would be better controlled. No need to say more. Tien Dao seemed unwilling to tangle with Konan on this issue, and left directly. Before leaving, his back was drawn. Suddenly, another sentence came. By the way, my rain transformation technique has discovered the identity of the intruder, it's Jiraiya-sensei. Jiraiya-sensei. Konan said, I know, I'll go and receive him now. I'll send a few more peons to go with you. Chapter 146. Hitaki Kusuo was alone, holding a sword, ready to go north. Tsunade came and stopped him. What do you want to do, little brat? Destroy the Iwagakure village. Hitaki Kusuo was not shy at all and told Tsunade his thoughts openly. In fact, his idea was very simple and straightforward. Since he was bothered so much, he might as well just eliminate the source and destroy the Iwagakure village and the Sand village together. That way, it would be a one-time thing. Without the pressure from the Iwagakure village, the military strength on this battlefield would be greatly reduced. Konoha could devote itself to other battlefields and face ninjas from other villages. No. Tsunade was shocked by his idea when she learned that Hitaki Kusuo still wanted to destroy the Iwagakure village. Without saying anything, she shook her head and rejected Hitaki Kusuo. We have massacred a village, and our reputation in the ninja world is quite bad. Although many people don't say it, they will definitely blame you in their hearts. Secondly, Iwagakure is not like Sand Village. They have many ninjas and even more powerful ones. Although you are not afraid of anyone, a desperate dog will jump over the wall. What if they give up the village and send all the ninjas to take revenge? Even if you are very capable, your relatives will inevitably suffer from the murderous hands. As a person in power, you can see far-reaching. Tsunade is telling Hitaki Kusuo why the ninja world cannot massacre to the end. She hopes that Hitaki Kusuo can see the pros and cons. Once some things are done, they will be resented by the heavens and the people, and they will be targeted by too many people. But Hitaki Kusuo is still indifferent. As a swordsman, his belief is extremely firm. No matter how much Tsunade says to 06, it can't change his mind. What they think of me is none of my business. No one can stop me from killing someone I want to kill. After saying these two words coldly, Kusuo Hitaki's face was so calm that he seemed to have no emotions. The will of fire, or loyalty and protection to the village, it doesn't exist for him at all. As for relatives, except for those whom Kusuo Hitaki cares about, they will naturally be protected by him, and everyone else is dispensable. Tsunade's eyebrows stood upside down. She was choked by Kusuo Hitaki's words. At that moment, the majestic scenery shook violently. As the fifth Hokage, she couldn't tell the people in her own village what to do. She was so angry. Hitaki Kusuo, you are such a big asshole tilde. Even if you don't consider yourself, you should consider Hinata, Hanabi and the others. With the name of a murderer, are you willing to let your family live in the revenge of Iwagakure village from now on? If you are not here one day, no matter how well Konoha is guarded, if there is any negligence, it will be really over. Hitaki Kusuo was silent. What Tsunade said is not without reason. Although his strength is very strong, so strong that he is not afraid of anyone in the ninja world, even if the six paths come in person, Hitaki Kusuo dares to draw his sword and chop him. But the people around him are still a little bit short. Because of this, Hitaki Kusuo considered this point on the one hand, and planned to teach Hinata and the others breathing methods to improve their strength. Besides killing too many people, it will indeed have an impact on his heart. Although Hitaki Kusuo can control the powerful evil spirit now, it is hard to guarantee that there will be no problems in the future. It's a very simple logic. As a human, I feel nothing when I step on an ant to death, because my strength is not in the same dimension. It is the same for him now. It is as easy for him to kill those ordinary Iwagakure ninjas as to step on an ant to death, effortlessly. But Kusuo Hitaki lives on Earth and in the ninja world. If he always treats people with low strength or ordinary people as ants and kills them wantonly, his mentality will definitely be distorted. Because he is also a human being and lives with people. For a long time, a person with a distorted mentality is either a madman or a murderer. Kusuo Hitaki still wants to live a good life with Hinata and the others. I know. Leaving this sentence lightly, Kusuo Hitaki still passed by Tsunade who was blocking the way. Tsunade turned around anxiously and looked at his back. She sighed, and for a while, she didn't know if the brat had listened to her words. This brat, don't go into the devil's way. Grandpa, what's wrong with you? Stupefied. The whole person was stunned. Kuritsuchi's handsome face was filled with shock and panic. She watched Onoki holding his severely injured chest and walking along the path flying back to the village stumblingly. This is the first time I have seen my grandfather being injured so badly. Behind, there are still a large number of fleeing ninjas, most of whom are disheveled, covered in dust, and in a miserable state. Ahem. Glancing at Kuritsuchi, Unoki coughed, wiped a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth, and waved his old hand. Quick! Give orders to notify the villagers to go to the refuge. Ahem, we can't stay in Iwagakure village anymore. Let everyone quickly disperse and flee. Run as fast as you can. Run as far as you can, don't stay here. That man will come at any time. He was scared. The third-generation Tsuchikage who once made a sensation in the ninja world and was famous in one area, and who inherited the blood to eliminate the dust release, and was the best among all the Kage, the old man Unoki. Now, he was scared by Hitaki Kusuo's swordsmanship. Just like seeing Uchiha Madara, Onoki was so frightened this time that his heart and liver broke, and his face was full of fear and confusion, as if a great disaster would happen if he didn't leave. Although Kuritsuchi didn't understand what his grandfather had encountered, He guessed in his heart that he might return in defeat. So, one order after another was ordered to be carried out. In less than half an hour, the whole people in the Hidden Rock village were in chaos. You should leave too. When Onoki saw his granddaughter Kuritsuchi still guarding him, his old face fell and he scolded. Something had happened to his son Wangtu, and the old man had to send the black-haired man off. Now his granddaughter couldn't get into trouble again. I won't leave. I want to accompany Grandpa. I want to protect Grandpa. Kuritsuchi didn't listen, his lips pouted, and his big black and white eyes were full of stubbornness. You. Alas. Onoki knew his granddaughter's temper very well. He pointed with trembling fingers for a long time, but could only sigh and stop. The situation gradually became chaotic. Onoki flew alone in the sky, his face looked much more vicissitudes. Looking at the prosperous village in the past, it has become like this now, and there is a trance that things have changed. Ah. He sighed again. It took only a week for the changes to happen. Since that boy joined the war. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. Suddenly. A magnificent sword energy came from the distant sky. It gradually enlarged within the visible range, and finally slashed heavily on the wall of the Hidden Rock village. Boom. A shocking slash. It seemed to cut the world apart. The tall and tough wall, which had been blessed by earth escape ninjutsu countless times, collapsed after that blow, and the broken stones and tiles fell to the ground, stirring up dust all over the sky. When the dust settled, a figure in red appeared in front of him. Enemy attack. Beware. The villagers and common people have escaped safely, and a large number of genin and chunin have also fled. Now only hundreds of elites are guarding the village. When they saw Kusuo Hatake appear, they immediately sounded the alarm. Whoosh! Onoki's eyes sank, and a person flew in front of Kusuo Hatake and said in a deep voice. We surrender to the Hidden Rock village. You Konoha can make any request. As long as it is within our ability, we will definitely do it. At this critical moment, a monster of Kusuo Hatake's level. He can change the entire battlefield with his own strength, just like Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha at that time, just as unreasonable, just as powerful, powerful enough to change the pattern of the ninja world. For the village, for the villagers, for his former students and subordinates, Onoki hopes to have a good beginning and a good end. It was just unexpected. Okay. Kusuo Hatake said lightly. Okay. The third-generation Tsuchikage Onoki seemed to have heard it wrong. Really, how could he agree to my request so easily? Could it be that my eyes are blurry and I was stunned by the opponent in the last battle, so I have hearing problems? I said yes. Hatake Kusuo spoke calmly again. Every grudge has its own nemesis. Anyway, he basically killed all the Iwagakure ninjas on the battlefield, so there is nothing worth revenge. But I have a request. Hatake Kusuo looked at Onoki again, and his tone became firm. It seemed that if Onoki didn't agree to this request, he would destroy the village at any time. Onoki's eyes sank. I don't understand what Hatake Kusuo is up to. But the other party agreed to his surrender, so there is something to talk about. Okay. Tell me. I will try my best to agree to your request. Yes. Hatake Kusuo said. Yes, then he placed the sword diagonally under his body and began to talk about his request. First, hand over all the Jonin and above who have participated in the war, and I will deal with them. Second, the Land of Earth surrenders completely and leads its troops to assist the Land of Fire in the war. There must be no second thoughts. Third, send hostages to Konoha village, and the Tsuchikage commits suicide to apologize. The three conditions were spoken by Kusuo Hatake without any emotion, and each one made Onoki's heart sink. Lord Tsuchikage, we are willing. Don't worry about our lives. A group of Iwagakure Jonin who escaped from the dead stood up and said to Onoki passionately. An attitude of righteousness, life and death for the benefit of the Iwagakure, and not avoiding humiliation for the sake of fortune and disaster. Onoki was so moved that his old eyes were blurred, and tears flowed in the air. No. I don't agree to the third one. At this time, a slender figure rushed over. She was handsome and beautiful, with a pair of legs that were very flexible. Grandpa, you can't commit suicide. At this time, everyone realized the content of the third article. The Tsuchikage committed suicide to apologize. Chapter 147. Silly child. Unoki had slowly descended from the sky. At this point, he had no other way. He couldn't beat Hitaki Kusuo, so instead of wasting time and sacrificing countless lives, he might as well use his own life in exchange for the survival of other people in the village. This was his last dignity as the third Tsuchikage. Unoki was very open-minded, and touched Kuritsuchi's head with a bitter smile. It's okay. If my death can bring peace to the land of Earth and the hidden rock village, what can a mere life count for? Now, Unoki has made up his mind to die. And plans to serve his country and die with the village. Just when Onoki and Kuritsuchi were still explaining their affairs, the grandfather and grandson were reluctant to part. Puff, puff. A flash of cold knife light passed by. The sword energy chopped off the heads of the 20 or so Jonins and beheaded them all. The heads fell to the ground one by one. This scene scared Kuritsuchi and his face turned pale immediately. These Jonins of Iwagakure were the last group of people who had hurt Konoha ninjas on the battlefield. Kill them. There were only some fleeing Chunins. Hitaki Kusuo was too lazy to care. Besides, Hitaki Kusuo killed these people for a reason. Current roll, %. Finally. 80%. A brand new feeling emerged in his mind. Hitaki Kusuo could feel that his body was undergoing a complete transformation, which was an unprecedented improvement. The air flow and blood in his body flowed like a big river, surging. Meridians, muscles, internal organs and even cells. All cheered. Each time the air was inhaled, it was even more amazing. The movement was still silent, but the energy contained in it was comparable to a day of hard training for a Jonin. Even if it was not stored but used, this kind of power was really frightening. It was ridiculously strong. Hitaki Kusuo's strength had long surpassed the level of Kage. This kid. What's wrong? Onoki woke up from the shock of Hitaki Kusuo suddenly killing all the Jonin on his side. He immediately noticed the changes in the other party. This feeling. It was as if he had become much stronger all of a sudden. Hitaki Kusuo's growth could not be viewed with common sense at all. Kuritsuchi stood there stupidly. Her face was still pale, and she was only 14 years old. She had never seen such a brutal scene. Seeing this scene, a pair of beautiful long legs with net patterns trembled slightly. Kusuo Hitaki woke up from his closed-eye perception, and then saw the scene of Kuritsuchi and Onoki, an old man and a young man. He pondered for a while. He said, keeping you here will always be a nuisance. But I don't have to rush to kill you now. Suo Hitaki had just successfully broken through 80% of the level. It won't take long. It doesn't matter whether Onoki is killed or not. Of course, he can't let him go, he's not the kind of person who is soft-hearted. Abolish your training, only a useless person can completely eliminate the threat. Onoki was stunned. Abolish training. He has been in the ninja world for so many years, and he has never heard of abolishing cultivation. The chakra of practice is gathered in the cell energy, and the ninjutsu mastered is recorded in the brain. How to abolish a person's practice? The next second, Kusuo Hitaki gave his answer. Swish, swish, swish. Countless sword lights flashed. Hitaki Kusuo's arms flew, and in the blink of an eye, he stabbed Onoki into a bloody man. I have completely cut off your meridians, and your chakra will never be able to flow again. I have also planted a sword energy in your body. Once you have any crooked ideas, I think you should know the result without saying anything. Okay, now it's time to choose hostages. Well, you. After that, Hitaki Kusuo hugged Kuritsuchi's body, and then used the Hyuga clan's soft fist to seal her acupoints. Carried it on his shoulder. Walked away without looking back. Tsunade will bring Konoha's people to hand over to you later. Remember the agreement I reached with you at that time. As for whether there are other requirements and specific arrangements, you can discuss them on your own. I will not participate. The voice became smaller and smaller. Hitaki Kusuo disappeared from sight in the blink of an eye. Onoki felt his breath blocked, his chakra had no channel to flow, and at the same time, because of the sword energy left by Hitaki Kusuo, he suddenly felt unbearable pain. Onoki was shocked. On the one hand, it was the speed of Hitaki Kusuo's sword, and on the other hand, his unpredictable means. When will the ninja world be able to completely pierce a person's meridians without hurting the body? If I'm not mistaken, that kid doesn't have a pupil technique, how can he see through the mystery of his body? Wait. His granddaughter. When Onoki regretted. Just now, he was stunned by Hitaki Kusuo's earth-shattering means, and forgot that his granddaughter Washi was kidnapped. That was the future heir of the Iwagakure village, his most beloved granddaughter. Ouch. Onoki, who had become an ordinary person, rolled on the ground, throwing a tantrum like an ordinary old man. Everything happened too fast. It was so fast that he didn't even realize the consequences before it was over. Put me down, you bastard. Kuretsuchi was caught by the legs by Hitaki Kusuo, who lifted him up on his shoulders and rushed back. Kuretsuchi suddenly stopped and threw Kuretsuchi on the ground. Buzz. A slight tremor. Kuretsuchi drew his sword, pointed at her and said, "Shut up, or I don't mind killing you, and then going back to kill your grandfather." These words made Kuretsuchi silent, not daring to speak. Okay, why are you so fierce? She said aggrievedly. Hitaki Kusuo ignored Kuretsuchi's small expressions and small tone. He carried him on his shoulders again roughly. He continued on his way. Hitaki Kusuo remembered the plot in the original book. Kuretsuchi was going to be a leg shadow in the future, the Tsuchikage of Iwagakure village. So is the heir. Kuretsuchi was worthy of being taken as a hostage to Konoha in terms of both strength and status. With this princess of the land of earth in hand. Even if Iwagakure village wanted to retaliate in the future, they would have to think twice. After all, it was the same as Sand Village. All the high-end combat forces of Jonin and above were killed by him, leaving only a few melons and 2 dates, not to be feared. By then, Hinata, Hanabi and the others would surely improve rapidly under his teaching, and even the elite Jonin who started out as an average person would not be able to do anything to them. Not to mention Shion. Originally, he wanted to kill Onoki with one sword. Who knew the system was so powerful? After killing those Jonin, he actually broke through the 80% mark and entered a new stage. I also saw that Kuretsuchi and her grandfather had such a good relationship. Jiao, if he really died, it might be difficult to take care of him. Index directly made him a disabled person, simple and easy. Why can he pierce the meridians? Hitaki Kusuo, who has the excellent talent of Sugikoku Yoshichi, only needs to watch Hinata and the others to master the Hyuga soft fist style. If the Hyuga can block it, he can naturally pierce it directly. And the transparent world. It makes it so that any living being cannot escape the eyes of Hitaki Kusuo. Everything that shocked Onoki. Hitaki Kusuo just wanted to wave his hand to say, Basic exercises, Wulu sit down. Desolate rocky ground. In addition to his stomping footsteps, there was also Kuretsuchi's faint hum. Holding on Hitaki Kusuo's shoulders, he hummed. A group of figures passed by quickly. With lightning speed and strong wind. The moment the two sides passed by, their eyes met. Hitaki Kusuo saw. It was a tall, muscular, violent, and powerful middle-aged man. There were also 2 young women, one white and one black, who were extremely majestic and comparable to Tsunade. The picture was too amazing. Chapter 148. The two sides glanced back at each other after passing by, and it took less than a second. Then. The next moment. This brat. Reikage eyes flashed with a strange color, and he suddenly stopped his body, and the whole person was stuck in place like a sudden break. His tall body turned around immediately. Looking at Hitaki Kusuo's gradually leaving back, I clenched his fists and stared at him. Like. Too much like. Boy, stop right there. A red dress, a single ponytail, and a pattern on the forehead. That familiar outfit. And that kind of extraordinary temperament, and the indifference and calmness in his eyes. The most important thing is that he has a sword on his waist. No mistake. Absolutely no mistake. It is that man, the monster of Konoha. The man who killed Shukaku, destroyed Sand Village, and even crippled Rock Village. Hitaki Kusuo. Faced with the question of Raikage Eye, Hitaki Kusuo was too lazy to pay attention to this guy and had no intention of stopping at all. Of course, he saw that this group of people were probably the Raikage of the Hidden Cloud Village and Samui Mabu. But so what? Fourth Raikage, who do you think you are? If you ask me to stop, I will stop. Wouldn't it be very embarrassing for me? Hitaki Kusuo now only wants to go back and lock up Kuretsuchi, and then deal with the next matter. Therefore, he continued on his way without looking back. Damn it! How dare you ignore my words? Raikage bomb. Seeing this, Raikage Eye was angry. The whole person ran away like a wild bull, his body turned sharply downward, and smashed towards Hitaki Kusuo like a comet. A strong blow from thunder. Ziz. Thunder exploded. With unparalleled momentum and amazing speed, it tore through the air and hammered hard on Hitaki Kusuo's back. Fast. Too fast. If he was hit by this, even a cage would be in trouble. What's going on? Why did Lord Raikage suddenly run away? And he used a super advanced physical technique like Thunder Bomb right at the beginning. Seeing Raikage Eye run away, Ma Buyi exuded a healthy wheat-colored luster all over her body, and her little mouth opened in surprise. She widened her eyes. Until now, Ma Buyi didn't even understand what happened just now. Everything. It was so sudden. Raiga Bakugan is the signature taijutsu of the Raikage, and he usually doesn't use it easily. Unless he encounters a great enemy or a deep hatred. He basically only relies on ordinary taijutsu to defeat his opponent. In her impression, you can only see it when training with Master Killerbee in the village. That's because Master Killerbee has the 8 tails sealed in his body, making him a perfect Jinchuriki. So he can perfectly withstand all attacks from Master Raikage. And now, Master Raikage actually used Raiga Bakugan as soon as they met. Doesn't it mean that the boy in front of him is as powerful as Master Killerbee, the perfect Jinchuriki, in Master Raikage's heart? Samui and Mabui are the same and different. The same thing is that they both opened their mouths wide and covered their chests with their hands. That moment happened too fast. So fast that she thought they were just passing by an ordinary boy and girl. I didn't expect that Raikage-sama would react so quickly and see the enemy's true face immediately. She reacted immediately and recognized the identity of the red-clothed boy faster than sackcloth. Hitaki Kusuo. Only this person is worthy of Raikage-sama Ai's mobilization of troops. It is also because of him that the three of them traveled thousands of miles and consumed a lot of chakra to rush to the land of Earth. Thunder. Rampaging. Countless arcs hit the rocks on the ground and shattered them into pieces. The violent force blasted a huge pit where Hitaki Kusuo was. The huge pit was bottomless. It was just like a small pond that was drained of water and lay on the ground of the land of Earth. The fourth Raikage. He created a small pond artificially with the strength of his body and the power of his elbow. It's just that there is no water. In terms of physical skills, Ai is definitely a leader. Every move has great destructive power. Is he dead? Is he dead? The lady in linen looked around, her charming eyes full of charm. At this moment, she was trying hard to see if there was any blood or body parts left in the huge pit. As a result, she could not see anything. There was only a lot of dust raised by the crushed rocks and soil, which was so scattered that it was hard to see clearly. What happened there? Samui trotted a few steps, trembling, and she was eager to know the answer. On the other side, Raikage Eye was a little surprised. As the person involved, he was very clear that his previous blow did not hit the entity, but hit the air instead. This feeling of powerlessness of punching in the air made Raikage Eye very angry. At this moment, swish! A sharp sword energy, which was extremely cold, came with a surging wind. Slash! A terrifying slash flew over. With a violent storm, it was as powerful as thunder and lightning. A sword strike was a thunderbolt. Hitaki Kusuo settled the black soil and immediately fought back against the rakeage, without hiding his strength. A sword strike. Since others have come to attack, there is no reason for Hitaki Kusuo not to fight back. A strike. It was a full-strength strike, without mercy. The slash flew out, splitting the sky, and it was dozens of meters long, showing a vast blue-gray mist. At the same time, the sword energy was surrounded by tiny wind blades that could be clearly seen by the naked eye. Just by the fluctuations in the air and the sound of the wind, you can know that these tiny wind blades are also extremely sharp and lethal. The rakeage is more than 2 meters tall. However, under this sword energy of dozens of meters, he was like a dwarf, insignificant. Think about it. How can humans resist the sword energy of skyscrapers? It is just an arc-shaped wind blade, and its size is even comparable to the body of the rakeage. What an exaggerated sword energy, the range is too large, comparable to S-level ninjutsu. Am I dazzled? Ma Buyi rubbed her eyes hurriedly, then opened her black and white eyes and looked hard. After confirming that she was not mistaken, she immediately ran back. Such an exaggerated sword. She didn't think that Lord Rakeage would resist it. Sam's mouth was tightly closed, but her beautiful eyes were indescribably shocked. The sudden attack of Lord Rakeage was actually dodged. How is it possible? After Lord Rakeage used physical skills, he was the fastest in the current ninja world. No one can surpass him in speed. Even if there is, it can only be the 4th generation Hokage Minato Namikaze more than 10 years ago. The man known as the Yellow Flash. And now, this boy even carried a girl of about his age on his back, but he was able to react and escape even when his back was facing the Rakeage-sama. What level of acute perception and speed is this? Could it be that? Is this boy faster than the previous Yellow Flash? The more Samui looked, the more surprised she was. This is not just a fight between Rakeage-sama alone. If this boy really has such a fast speed, there are only 2 possible explanations. 1. He has mastered the same space-time ninjutsu Flying Thunder God as Yellow Flash. 2. His physical fitness is extremely strong, enough to be on par with Rakeage-sama. These 2 points. No matter which, every little bit deserves their attention. And this sword energy, it is really as terrible as the rumors say. Because the intelligence has long described that Kusuo Hitaki can easily swing out sword energy of dozens or hundreds of meters, and each slash has the strength of the cage level. This time, Samui was not so surprised. Or, she had been surprised a long time ago, and was mentally prepared, so she was not so surprised. Only Ma Buyi. That vase who had never seen the world was so panicked when she encountered this matter. I really don't know how she became the secretary of Lord Rakeage. One sword. With a magnificent and majestic aura. It was already slashing straight at Rakeage Eye. Fast speed. Extremely fast. There was only time to see the sword energy, and it was about to slash at Rakeage Eye's body head-on. Sizzle. The sparks of lightning crackled. Watching this scene, a flash of solemnity flashed across Ai's eyes. Facing the sword energy slashed by Hitaki Kusuo, he was not careless. Then, the whole body was covered with thunder. He went all out and directly activated his own thunder release ninjutsu. Thunder release chakra mode. Open. Chapter 149. Sizzle. Lightning flashes. The violent and terrifying aura climbed up the body of the 4th Rakeage, and his hair fluttered with lightning and thunder. At first glance, it was like a demon was born. The arrogance was surging and incomparable. As I activated the thunder release chakra mode, the thunder attribute chakra turned into a snarling thunder snake, choosing people to bite. At this moment, the momentum of the Rakeage reached its peak. The shadow-level combat power was in full view, and it was still infinitely close to the super shadow-level power. Boom. A punch was thrown. The air crackled, as if the atmosphere was pierced. The arm was full of explosive power and electric arcs surged. Rakeage Eye shouted. Thunder blade. Swoosh. A residual image. A gust of wind blew. Then, I was stuck in the spot and escaped from the sword energy swung by Hitaki Kusuo in the blink of an eye. Bang! The body of the Raikage, wrapped in countless lightning, had descended to the end of the dust. On the other side that Mabuyi and Samui could not see. The two had already fought. At that moment. It was an extremely fierce collision. Each blow was accompanied by a shocking sound. Feeling the piercing and violent wrist strike, the power coming from the opposite side could almost break mountains and rocks. Hitaki Kusuo's eyes condensed. He forced the fourth Raikage back, but the fourth Raikage eye kicked the air with a spiral kick, and then quickly approached again with the help of the force. Just when Ai's attack was about to touch Hitaki Kusuo. Swoosh! With the same afterimage, Kusuo Hitaki shot into the sky, and the whole person soared into the air. This scene just happened to be seen by Mabuyi and Samui on the ground. The two looked at it in astonishment, their eyes full of disbelief and indescribable shock. Stupefied. Stupefied. Hiss. How is it possible? Can he just rely on the power of his body to launch and fly so high in the air? This level of physical strength, even the Raikage can't do it. This is too abnormal. Kusuo Hitaki, who is named a monster, really lives up to his name. This scene. Mabuyi's heart was shaken violently. She was completely stunned, and she didn't know how to describe the turbulent waves in her heart. That kind of power. It is impossible for a normal human to possess it. What's more, the boy didn't use any special chakra mode at all. Even a person as strong as Raikage can only reach the limit of human strength by using the lightning chakra mode. Of course, if a higher level is activated, Raikage's physical strength will be even higher. At that time, it was impossible to catch his movements with the naked eye. But there was no strange fluctuation on the boy in front of him. That is to say, a teenager teleported to the sky with his body. Is the information wrong? Hitaki Kusuo is not a ninja of Konoha, but a disciple of the third Tsuchikage Onoki, and he also learned the super light heavy rock technique. No. How to explain the miracle of his flying in the air? After Hitaki Kusuo took off briefly, he looked down at the Raikage below. As for the other two. Although a majestic black-skinned woman, Sapphire, has mastered the secret technique of Heaven's Sentence. A majestic white-skinned woman, Samui, is at the level of an elite Jonin. But for me now, it's nothing. The Raikage looked at the position under his feet. At this time, I was still swinging his wrist to use the lei plow hot knife. He was unable to retract his body. The next second, Hitaki Kusuo slashed in the air. Clang! A sharp and crisp sword sound. In a flash, it hit the wrist guard of the Raikage. Ziz! The crackling lightning. It hit the sword in Hitaki Kusuo's hand, and it actually showed a trend of competing with each other. Good wrist strength. He commented lightly. Hitaki Kusuo retracted the blade and slashed with his backhand. A sword in the air. Sharp. Like a downpour. With the ultimate attribute that cannot be evaded, it quickly rode towards the body of Raikage. Not good. Sammy saw it clearly. While her heart was shaking, she saw the terror of this young man for the first time. That kind of thing. Absolutely beyond the horror described in the intelligence. Only those who have actually seen his sword are qualified to praise Kusuo Hitaki's swordsmanship is unparalleled in the world. Because almost no one can survive. Kuritsuchi's young heart was already numb. Looking at this scene, there was a shock like a storm on her face. Be a swordsman. How can you fight when you have the same physical skills as Kumogakur Raikage, or even far surpass them? The problem is that this swordsman's sword energy does not consume chakra. There is only one fourth-generation Hokage in history, Namikaze Minato, who can react and counterattack under the attack of the Raikage's Thunder Plow Hot Knife. Such quick movements. So, Iwagakure village is hopeless, right? Hitaki Kusuo's strength made Kuritsuchi despair. The previous thought in my mind that I wanted to return to Konoha to work hard, practice well and get stronger and take revenge disappeared. At this moment, Kuritsuchi just wanted to say to his grandfather Onoki, "Sorry, I can't do it, the enemy is too strong." Rumble. An earth-shaking vibration came, Accompanied by a deafening roar, it resounded throughout the world. Whoosh! Zero asking for flowers. A blue figure flew backwards, like a thrown cannonball, to the mountain at the end of the field of vision. Bang bang bang, it smashed two small mountain peaks one after another, and did not stop until the third one. At last, a deep hole of human nature was smashed out and embedded in it. The fourth Raikage, who had activated the Thunder Escape Chakra mode, made a sneak attack first, and in a head-to-head confrontation, he was finally cut into the mountain with a sword. This, appalling. Unbelievable. Ma Buyi stood there shivering. She didn't dare to say anything for fear of disturbing the sword-wielding young man who was standing quietly at one end. The two beautiful legs and stockings were shaking like chaff, and she was careful about her breathing. Lord Raikage! Sammy exclaimed and hurriedly ran to find Raikage's body. She is besides Kuretsuchi, the only person who clearly saw Hitaki Kusuo's last move. Hitaki Kusuo. Under Lord Raikage's hot knife, it flew into the air first, and then chopped down with one blow. After being blocked by the Raikage-sama's special wrist guard, there was another slash immediately. Magnificent sword energy bombarded Lord Raikage's Thunder Escape armor. I was caught off guard and flew hundreds of meters, smashing two mountain peaks. It didn't stop until the third one. The whole process takes less than a second. 1 second. Normal people's breathing is more than this number. That monster. Hitaki Kusuo can actually do so many moves, and his power is so terrifying. Too strong. Completely beyond human imagination. Hitaki Kusuo had a faint smile on his lips. The experiment just now was very successful. After unlocking 80% of the templates, his physical fitness has indeed been greatly improved. Comparable to Kai, who opened the 6th and 7th gates of the 8 gates of Dunjia. This does not include the markings on the forehead. If the markings are turned on, the physical strength will be even stronger. This is only an 80% enhancement. As he expected, the system has increased the intensity of the normal breathing method. What about 90%? It will definitely be an improvement in the level of markings. That time, Hitaki Kusuo with his stripes turned on is better than Kai with all 8 doors turned on, or even better. There is no life danger, it is purely the ultimate life leap. By then, as long as Ban dares to be harsh, say the words to dance, Hitaki Kusuo didn't mind kicking him one after another, kicking Madara Uchiha until dawn. Can't you recover your body? I'll kick you 100 times. If you recover 1,000 times, I will kick you 1,000 times. There really is such a day. Madara will definitely cry and kneel on the ground begging for mercy. Please. Please stop dancing. I, Madara, would like to call you the strongest, isn't that enough? Scholar. Chapter 150. Kid. You've turned me on. With a violent roar, the 4th generation Raikage's eyes were red and stared like lanterns. His whole body was bathed in terrible thunder and lightning, and his arms suddenly hit the surrounding rocks. One blow. Just one blow. Rumble, pierced through life and death. The powerful punch force brought lightning and thunder. Immediately, the landslide in the ground cracked, and the huge mountain was shaken by the 4th generation Raikage eye. Countless rocks fell and hit his head, and were all shattered by the sizzling thunder armor. The dark blue arc became much larger again. Just like the thunder dragon coming into the world and wrapping around the body of the 4th Raikage. Buzz. Chakra is rampant. This extremely vast chakra fluctuation caused the wind and clouds in the sky to move from top to bottom. The ground under eyes' feet cracked like a spider web. The golden hair stands on end. 4 generations the pupils of the Raikage were full of lightning. At that moment, he looked like a Saiyan. 773 He looked down on everything. One step. Leapt down from the mountain. The amazing power turned into speed, and he actually took a step to cross 100 meters, and the wind blew in his face. This is the full-on mode of Raikage's lightning chakra. Samui knew more. From the Raikage's hair standing up, it can be seen that Raikage is now at full power. He was very serious. This kid is dead. She raised an inexplicably confident smile on her face. Only the people inside the hidden cloud village knew that once Raikage activated the lightning chakra mode, no one could defeat him. Even the boy's sword energy just now failed to break through Raikage's lightning armor. Now, Raikage directly increased the lightning chakra mode to the highest stage. At this time, the Raikage has improved in all aspects, whether it is cell activity or defense, all to an incredible level. On the other side, Hitaki Kusuo looked thoughtfully at the arcs on the body of the fourth Raikage eye, and the deep blue chakra and thunder surrounded him. At first glance, it really looks like the thunder god descending to the world. In the original work, the fourth Raikage used this move, cooperating with the super light and heavy rock of the Tsuchikage to break Uchiha Madara's Susanoo. You can imagine how powerful it is. However, that's all. The fourth Raikage is still not as good as his father, the third. That guy is known as the strongest spear and the strongest shield, and no one in the world can break his defense. Even the eight-tailed octopus, which is second only to the nine-tailed, can't do anything to the third Raikage. The most important thing is that the third Raikage can fight against tens of thousands of ninjas without falling. The result? He just died of exhaustion. Until his death, no one could break his defense. You can imagine how abnormal the third Raikage was. As his son, the fourth Raikage, Kusuo Hitaki felt inferior. It's a pity that it's a little worse. Your lightning chakra mode may be more powerful than your father's, but your physical strength is not as good as his. It's a flaw after all. He commented lightly. Kusuo Hitaki raised his sword again. However, his words, they shocked everyone. In this world, there are people who brazenly say to the Raikage of the Hidden Cloud Village that your physical strength is not good. The one who said this is a ninja from Konoha, a half-grown boy. If it gets out, it's enough to shock everyone. Damn boy. If your goal is to irritate me, you succeeded. Sure enough. Hearing this, the Raikage was furious. He admitted that there was a certain gap between his body and his father's, and he was far inferior in both attack and defense. But no matter what, this sentence should not be said by a young boy. Or in a preaching way. What is this? Shame. This arrogant kid. Thunder level Chio Mai. A violent breath suddenly enveloped the body of the fourth Raikage, making his muscles tense and ready to go. Swoosh. Quick. The lightning-fast body disappeared from the spot. Appeared again. The fourth Raikage had appeared in the sky, swung his arms, surrounded by chakra lightning full of destructive breath, and slashed towards Hitaki Kusuo with force. This blow. With thunder and lightning. With unstoppable force. Such a fierce, dancing lightning is like the power of heavenly punishment. Accompanied by the Raikage's roar, it hit Hitaki Kusuo's head. Can he be killed? Kuretsuchi's eyes widened, his mouth slightly opened, and he didn't even realize that his stockings were covered with dust. If Hitaki Kusuo could be killed by the Raikage here, everything in the Hidden Rock Village would be saved. Looking at this scene, Kuretsuchi's heart was thumping, as if it was about to jump out of his heart. Not only her. Mabuyi and Samui had smiles on their faces. As the people who knew Raikage best, they would not watch the movements during the process at all. Because they knew that it was impossible to see clearly with the naked eye. The Raikage who activated the high-energy mode of the lightning chakra mode, even the Uchiha clan's Sharingan could not help. So, they cleverly focused their eyes directly around Hitaki Kusuo's body. As expected, Raikage-sama almost teleported and suddenly appeared above Hitaki Kusuo's head. He used his ultimate move, the lightning abuse level Chio Mai. This is a super high-level ninjutsu that only the successive Raikages can learn and master. One strike. Surely dead without any injuries. That kid, Kusuo Hitaki, is dead. What a pity. A clearing of the throat froze the smiles on their faces. That's it. Kusuo Hitaki's eyes followed the movements of the Raikage and came to the sky above his head. At that moment, on the extremely horrified face of the Raikage, he saw a touch of indifference that shouldn't have appeared. The arm that I swung out still kept moving, but he was shouting wildly in his heart. How is it possible? This kid's eyes were actually looking at him. This means that his eyesight can capture his movements. How is this possible? It simply overturned the worldview of the fourth Raikage for decades. Years of experience told him. As long as he opened the lightning chakra mode, even the Uchiha's Sharingan and the Hyuga clan's Byakugan could not catch his movements. Because of his current physical strength. He could hide from Amaterasu. Hitaki Kusuo seemed to see the disbelief in the Raikage's heart, and his mouth corners slightly raised, as if there was a hint of sarcasm. His face was calm. The sword in his hand had turned golden at some point, shining with golden lightning and arcs. Crackling and snapping. Thunder breathing form 4. Far thunder. Boom. Bang. Hitaki Kusuo's body turned into a ball of golden lightning, disappearing from the spot at a speed beyond visual dynamics. A lightning-like sprint. His half-body flew directly into the air. From standing still on the ground to now facing the Raikage face-to-face in midair. A sword was slashed out. Far thunder. The golden lightning suddenly turned black. Like a low-pressure thunder, it struck the fourth Raikage at high speed. Ding dang dang. The Raikage's strong body and the blessing of the lightning chakra mode made his body as tough as steel. A crisp metallic sound. Then, swish. A sword blade. The sound of cutting through flesh was heard. Then something seemed to fall. The ultra-high temperature black long-range lightning and the deep blue arc of the lightning chakra mode blocked all movements in the battle. Mabuyi, Samui and Kuritsuchi could not see the situation of the two people inside. The only thing they heard was the clang-dang of the sword blade and the dull sound of objects falling to the ground. There. What happened?